Yo, what's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Become a member of the channel to access more content, the link is in the description. Adela, Chapter 230 Hatsume Mei's Requirements. You said you will cooperate with my hero's office in the future. It turns out that Masada thought too much by herself just now. After hearing Hatsume Mei's condition, Masada was also taken aback. Not to mention, where did she know that she decided to open the hero's office by herself? Why did she want to cooperate with herself is also a place that is too doubtful. Aren't you the number one in the sports festival? And you have a great reputation in school recently, even our logistics department knows it. The cross pattern in his eyes flickered. Hatsume Mei continued. If you cooperate with you, those big companies will definitely notice me, so that my baby will be known to more people. He is really a pure technology expert. Everything he does is for his own invention, but Masada really likes this kind of personality. After all, to some extent, he is also an egoist. I held my chin and thought about Hatsume Mei's condition, and I thought about it too carefully. To be honest, this condition is basically blood gain for Masada, because what he got is a piece of clothing that may be very satisfactory, and the friendship and cooperation of a highly skilled researcher. Some of his own reputation in the future. Why don't you join my hero's office directly in the future? Since you know that I decided to make a way out by myself, then you must have learned something about me. Finally, Masada expressed his own ideas. Instead of cooperating in the future, why not bring a future great inventor to his camp now? This is simply a genius idea. Your office is hero's right. Our logistics staff will eventually go to the combat uniform production company to work. Only there are all kinds of resources and orders, where we can play our best role. However, Hatsume Mei doesn't seem to be very happy. Although she knows that Masada is very strong and famous, after all, hero's is different from a combat uniform production company. Even if it has supporting facilities in this area, it has resources. The distribution is definitely different. Hey, you don't understand this. The expression of Masada, who started to show her own dafa, became mysterious. Do you know Yayorozu Momo in our class? She is a wealthy young woman at the level of the sky. The family's industries are all over Japan, and all industries are involved. And her goal now is to be a hero's. Do you think she will invest in the production of combat uniforms in the future? In case, she will start a super big company. By the way, she will definitely join my hero's office in the future. How about it? Should you think about it? If you join now, it will be at the senior level. The future treatment will definitely be great, and if your baby gets, if we approve it, we will help you vigorously promote it, and it will definitely be known by a lot of people. After speaking, Masada looked expectantly at Hatsume Mei, who was lost in thought. This way, it seems to be interesting. Hatsume Mei didn't even hear what I said before, but I didn't know it, but when I heard that my baby will be promoted in the end, Hatsume Mei's face stretched out. I promised. So fast. Quote, is it because my mouth escape skill has increased, or is the recent little girl too good to lie? So simple to convince Hatsume Mei, let Masada feel that there is no sense of accomplishment at all. Yes, after all, as long as I have sufficient resources, where I work is the same. And what you said is really attractive. Hatsume Mei didn't think there was anything wrong. After all, her ideal was very simple. It was to let more people know about her invention. So it seemed that her thinking was too complicated. Well, then it's settled. Then I'm going to make my battle uniform, right? The matter was directly settled, and Masada became concerned about his battle uniform. With a combat uniform, there must be a lot of hair. How long does it take to keep hair? I felt a bit of a headache when I touched my head. Even if it's just a pair of shorts, I'm afraid I'll have to keep it for a year, right? If that's the case, I can't wait. Don't you know that growing hair is a very popular profession in society now? His quirk is to allow people's hair to grow rapidly, and now they have opened a studio dedicated to life it's done. Wouldn't it be fine if you go to find him once? Hatsume Mei looked at Masada like a fool. Even she, who had been in the laboratory all day, knew the news. Unexpectedly, Masada didn't seem to know. With Hatsume Mei's tip, Masada also recalled, it seems that a few months ago, there were indeed newspaper reports that many hair transplant institutions had closed down and the culprit was the hair growth hero's. It seems that there is no quirk for waste wood, only waste wood. User. It seems that I am looking for an opportunity to apply for a trip to the school. I was thinking too secretly. Then, the combat uniform I hope is like this. After everything was negotiated, the two returned to the laboratory. At this time, Cha-Cha also discussed his idea with the super excavator teacher. It is estimated that the new combat uniform will be available in a few days. And Iida also successfully got the teacher's help. He installed a freezing device on his leg. Now he is happily touching it. The look in his eyes is almost like looking at his lover, and he is obviously very satisfied. Today is really a hard day. After finishing a day of training, now everyone in Class A is sitting in the lobby of the dormitory building to rest. It's weird, why hasn't Lugu classmate come back? Iida looked around, but did not find the figure of his friend, and asked a little strangely. I know where the Green Valley is. Lazily lying on the sofa, Masada said, I just met him on the road outside. It seems to be doing physical training, right? It's really hard work. What? After the Nirvana training, Lugu students even consciously do additional exercises. This is simply too inspirational. Classmates, we should also learn like Lugu students. Hearing the words of Mr. Iida, 2 lines of tears flowed in Iida's eyes instantly, waving a strange gesture and saying loudly, I can't fall either. After speaking, he ran out in a hurry, and it seemed that he was going to train. Shout, boring. Bakugo's eyes flickered, and he walked back to his dormitory with his hands in his pockets, and Kirishima also said hello to Junta, and ran out of the door, even without saying a word, followed Kirishima and left. Hall. Masada looked at the somewhat empty sofa and felt like crying without tears. Why did she tell so many people away with a word? Who will brag with herself now? Chapter 231 Night Attack. Look at others working so hard, it's so embarrassing for you to sit here as the monitor. Yaoyorozubai was sitting next to Shoji, watching him sink into the soft sofa, and said silently. Well, how should I say this? I am a little different from them. The specific situation is a bit complicated, but in general it is like this. Even if Yaoyorozu was complaining about it, Masada still didn't look like she wanted to get up. Instead, she changed her posture to lie down more comfortably. During this period of time, Masada has indeed relaxed a lot, even the physical training, which was never stopped before, has also slowed down. The reason is that he is so strong. When training in school, he doesn't need to work hard at all, or it can only be regarded as a warm-up. Moreover, after experiencing the battle of Heisu and Kamiya, his strength has grown by leaps and bounds. In this Hero-S society where AFO is imprisoned and All Might retired, the person who can be the opponent of Masada has already very few. The rest of the people, even if it is booming, also have an invisible pressure, forcing him to work hard to move forward, otherwise, no matter how good his background is, he will be surpassed by the people behind. There are many such examples. Just say that Class A has a living example, that is, Green Valley. When he first entered the Shongying school gate, even with the power of OFA, Lugu was still a genuine crane tail, because he could not exert this power at all, and after a semester of training, he has now become a class. That part of the middle and upper reaches. Even Bakugo, who had been dismissive of him before, had to face him to show the power that comes out. For the original top students, the existence of Lugu is undoubtedly a huge pressure, but it is also a motivation. Those who can come to Shongying Hero-S to go to school have a competitive spirit. This is not an exception even for Grape, but he is a little different from others, which makes the atmosphere of competition in the class. The national siege is very strong. However, Masada is a little incompatible with them. If Boom can still put some pressure on himself when the school just started, then after many times of strengthening, Masada can pat his chest and confidently say that Boom and himself are completely not a grade anymore. Even the guys who are among the top of the same age and are already among the best can't give Masada the pressure, and the rest of the classmates are even more stressful, so Masada doesn't have that sense of urgency at all. Of course, the more important thing is that the basic exercises are completely meaningless to Masada now. The training of Lugu and the others cannot even make him sweat if he is put on Masada. And, obviously you can become stronger by lying down now. That's right, even if Masada's current strength reaches a bottleneck, his passive quirk is still playing a role, constantly strengthening all aspects of him, which also means that as long as there is enough time, Masada can surpass the use of his body alone. OFA's All Might. Efforts are the best way to see a person's willpower. Even if you are already very strong, you should also learn about the Hero-S firm. I don't want to join you at that time. The Hero-S firm has to be the chief executive. Yaoyorozu, who has been synonymous with diligence and hard work since childhood, is a bit hated for iron and steel, but she really has nothing to do with Masada. After all, although Masada is not righteous in normal days, he is still her most steadfast support at critical moments. That's not okay. Of course you are the chief steward in my Hero-S office, otherwise, don't you want others to be? He smiled. Masada caught a key word in Yaoyorozu's 100 words and looked at her with a smirk. You, dang it, what's so great? Obviously he understood the meaning of Masada. Yaoyorozu's face turned red in an instant, and he stepped on his foot in shame, and then ran upstairs. Yaoyorozu is gone, and Cha-Cha is studying his new battle uniform in the room, and the side of Masada instantly becomes deserted. Forget it, it's not too early anyway, then wash and sleep, and I will go to Ms. Aizawa to apply for going out of school tomorrow. For flowers. After chatting with a few people downstairs for a while, Masada also felt a little bored, so she went back to her room and was ready to rest. The night is dark. Wan Lai was quiet. The gluey moonlight fell from the cracks in the curtains, and a silvery white color fell in the room. In the quiet room, suddenly the door opened a gap, and then a figure quietly walked in from the outside, and then gently closed the door, barefoot as far as possible to keep himself from making a sound, and tiptoed towards Masada. The Chuang walked along. The door was opened so easily, naturally because Masada didn't lock the door. After all, this building is full of classmates who are familiar with each other on weekdays, and it is impossible to shrink the door to death. Then, this figure stood next to Chuang, condescendingly looking at the grandma who closed her eyes and was asleep. Just too big a person. This figure is impressively Himiko Toga. I can't control myself. It's not as good looking as the one before. After a closer look, I was slightly disappointed. She seemed to have a fanatical hobby for the color of blood. This was also her original intention of being interested in Masada. But it is different now. I was originally a high school student who was not very satisfied with the status quo in society, but since she noticed Masada, she found that this man has a strange charm. It was an indescribable aura that made me want to get close to him and understand him. After understanding Masada more and more, I became more fascinated by him. I deeply believe that this person can bring a change to the current society and make the society rejuvenate. This is also a huge price for her to contact League of Villains and then approached Masada's sake. Long. Chapter 232 Blood Stains. The Masada in her sleep felt her body suddenly sank without knowing why. It must be an illusion. Where did the cat come from in the middle of the night? And this place is Shongying's school building, under the layers of defense, let alone a cat, even a fly can't escape the surveillance of the patrol robot. I was very relieved about my safety, and I didn't expect anyone to come to my room. I sniffed my nose too much, and didn't even open my eyes, so I continued to sleep in a daze for 387. It's not too embarrassing to say that Masada had a very wonderful dream tonight. Then, Masada opened his eyes blankly. It's too big, you're awake. At this time, I was also awake and saw the Jungma who was dazed by the side, showing two cute little tiger teeth, and wanted to rush towards him. Stop it. Stretching out a hand to hold her head, she felt a headache. Why are you running to my room if you don't sleep at night? Because I waited in the room for a long time and no one came, so I came here. I was quite right and confident when I crossed over, making Masada a little wondering if I did something wrong. It seems we have to make some rules. He sighed and sat down cross-legged. Himiko Toga is completely self-centered and doesn't care about other people's opinions. Such a guy can honestly say that there is no way for Masada to tie her up. In that case, it always feels even more strange. Well, you have a crush on me now, right? It's still a little embarrassing to say this to a girl, and Masada stumbles a bit. Yeah, I like being too big. Nodding quickly like a kitten, the clothes on her body slipped a little. Fortunately, she was too quick to help her pull it up. In this case, then you have to consider my opinion, right? Yes. Seeing Dewey's reaction, I was too relieved, at least it means that I can communicate in words. Then, don't just run into my room at night. This requirement is very simple, right? Don't keep throwing on me. You girl is a little reserved. While Masada was not paying attention, I jumped up again and pressed him on Chuang. This posture made Masada's shame almost exploding. Although I am not disgusted with this body position, I always feel that it is better to fall a little bit. Now it should not be the time to talk about this. Since joining Shongying, Masada feels that her willpower is being tested every day, and the little angels and demons in her head are also fighting frequently, but according to the current situation, the demons are obviously going to be slightly better. One stood up, and the Masada jumped to the floor. Can you agree to the request just now? If you don't agree, I will definitely be around you in the future. I put my finger in my mouth and bit. I seem to be thinking about the gains and losses of this. After a long time, I finally said, okay. But if you are too big, can you give me a little of your blood? What do you want my blood for? No. Because there is the smell of being too big in the blood. Fortunately, unlike what Masada thought, the purpose of crossing me was extremely simple at 4.8, and whether some blood was a big deal, Masada quickly agreed. After drawing a small tube of blood for Dumi, she took the tube of blood in her hand with an idiotic expression and went back to her room, and Masada was finally able to calm down. Wait, what the hell? Yu Guang suddenly caught sight of the blooming on the sheets, making Masada's heart tighten again. Shouldn't. Chapter 233 Horrible Hair Volume. Finally, under Masada's careful observation, he finally figured out the source of the bloodstain. It was from his fierce mouth. After calming down, Masada realized that her fierce mouth was actually scratched, and some places had been broken, and the blood flowed out from these wounds. It seems that all the things in the previous dreams where reality happened. Fortunately, these wounds are not deep, and have basically healed, but this still reminds Masada. No matter how strong his combat power is, if he is attacked, he will still be in danger. But this is also because he is more assured of Shongying's security, and he is confused about sleeping, so he has not noticed it. If it is normal, Masada is still very vigilant, some disturbances will be noticed. Moreover, in the Battle of the Wild, the magical induction also made Zheng Tu long to forget. It was a power that completely relied on his own instincts, allowing Zheng Tu easily to escape the attack of AFO, and also found out his flaws for a moment. Gave him a fatal blow. However, this force seems to have never appeared again after 23. Like Conqueror's Hockey, perhaps the awakening of this force still needs an opportunity. What happened in the morning will not be mentioned for the time being, because the time to make this suit is not short, so Masada has discussed with Hatsume Mei and will give her his hair today, so Masada's purpose is very clear, early in the morning. So I ran to ask Mr. Aizawa for leave. Really, this kind of combat uniform exists, and I am planning to start promoting it. Igarashi classmates, the combat uniform is indeed a big problem, then I approve it. As expected, the strong have some privileges wherever they go. Mr. Aizawa admitted very early that he is not an opponent of Masada, so he feels relieved that Masada will go out alone. Through the address given by Hatsume Mei, Masada didn't want to waste time. She called a taxi and came to the studio where the Shengfa Hero S was located. Just looking at the appearance, this studio can be called it's a luxurious villa, and it seems that his business is the same as reported in the report, extremely hot. Growing Hair Hero S is a middle-aged man with thick black hair. After learning that Masada is a student of Shongying in the first place in the sports festival, he is also very enthusiastic and puts down his hands directly. Things come to receive him. After all, no one will let go of such an opportunity to be able to make a good future, which may be the #1 hero S in the future. Such well-informed hero S, but the one who shines in the battle of the gods, is Masada. The process is very simple. The hair growth hero S just used 2 hands to knead Masada's scalp for a while, and then Masada felt itchy scalp, and the hair at the root of the hair was like spring weeds, crazy. It came out, and the densely packed hair even formed a black river, which dropped directly from the back of Masada's head, and then spread the entire floor. Student Igarashi, it seems that your physical fitness is excellent. Full. Not only the Masada, but even the hair-producing hero S was also a little stunned at this time. Although he has not been in this industry for long, he has seen a lot of scenes. The number of hairs that his quirk can generate is completely based on the physical condition of the person involved. It is good or bad, in other words, his quirk is just an inducement, and it is the person who really exerts his power. This was the first time he saw such a terrifying hair volume, and his eyes on Masada became brighter. Come, this is our VIP card. From now on, as long as you have this card, coming here is free. He took out a black card from his pocket and put it in the pocket of the grandma without knowing it. Hero S reduced all the extra hair on the grandma's head and put it in for him, and then sent him with a smile on his face. After I went out, I didn't even collect the money in the end. The Masada carrying a sack of hair is a little bit dumbfounded, but he also understands the performance of the other party. After all, not everyone has such a strong strength and can ignore some rules. 99% of people still rely on the help of others to survive. After coming down, this Shunfa hero S tried to make good his mind and Masada did not refuse. Although my hair is very dense now, there is always a case for everything. The amount of hair is really inaccurate. Maybe now you are still a beautiful boy with long hair, and 1 year later, you will become a bald greasy uncle. NS. After giving a whole sack of hair to Hatsume-mei, and after confirming the style of her combat uniform with her again, Masada left the laboratory with satisfaction and returned to the training ground. It is already afternoon, but the enthusiasm of the students has not diminished at all. Instead, as their Nirvana skills gradually become stronger, the entire Gamma training ground is full of shouts and cheers. Yo, All Might, you are here too. Standing next to Aizawa-sensei was the skinny version of All Might. After seeing Masada greet him, he also looked terrified and instantly turned into a muscular form in a burst of steam. Because the students need me, so I am here. After saying his mantra, All Might no longer maintains this form. Although he has not exhausted the OFA flame in his body now, his physical condition is still not optimistic, so there will be no major movements in general. I heard from Mr. Aizawa 387, Igarashi boy, you helped many classmates solve their problems. You were really a qualified monitor. All Might is now looking at Masada. The more you look at it, the more satisfied you are. The character is good, the strength is strong, and the appearance is also very good. It is simply a perfect hero S template. Haha, nothing, it was originally some ideas that came to mind, but the students themselves are the ones who really put it into action. After a wave of business talks, Masada asked some business affairs. AFO is now detained in a safe place, right? Hearing the words of Masada, All Might's expression also became serious. Because he is a special case, he was put in a special detention facility by the police. In addition, he was severely injured by you before. Even speeding regeneration cannot completely heal his injury. He won't be able to make waves anymore in his life. In this case, the biggest threat at the moment is Deadwood. Secretly thinking in his heart, Masada decided that the next time he encounters Deathwood, he will never let him run away. However, at this time, the optimistic two did not know that a new storm was about to unfold. Chapter 234 The development of Nirvana is complete. Damn it, hate it. In the dimly lit apartment, Nishio Hunt kept tapping on the keyboard. On the computer in front of him, it was playing a replay of Masada's defeat of AFO. Teacher was defeated by this kid. Such a powerful teacher failed. Or in the condition of good health. It is really unforgivable. Nishio Hunter's eyes are full of scary bloodshot eyes. The red color almost occupies the entire eyeball. The eye bags are also visible to the naked eye. The greasy hair is knotted and emits a pungent smell. The clothes on his body are also a look. I knew that he hadn't been changed for many days, and he was very gentle and elegant at this time, just like a tramp, sloppy and sloppy. And Igarashi Masada, this kid, can't let him go. He is the beginning of everything. Holding the display screen with both hands, Hunter Nishio pressed his forehead tightly on the screen. He watched the screen constantly playing back and forth. He kept mumbling, and his spirit was a little abnormal. He adored AFO crazily, and couldn't accept the fact that AFO failed in good physical condition. When he got the news, he fainted at the time. After waking up, under the protective mechanism of the brain and his own subjective thoughts, he blamed everything on AFO and Masada. If AFO is more cautious, stronger, and engages in genetic modification experiments earlier, then he will definitely not fail. If Masada hadn't appeared there at the time, then he would definitely not be able to defeat AFO. The current Nishio Hunter's original admiration for AFO has now been transformed into hatred, and his dissatisfaction with Masada has been further deepened. By the way, there is that Tamura Shigaraki. As if suddenly thinking of something, Nishio Hunter squeezed out the name of Shibamu from his mouth. Originally, he couldn't understand Shibamu's style of, I am the biggest between heaven and earth, but at that time because of the existence of AFO, can only endure it. But this time, because of the dead wood, AFO was put in prison. And AFO has always been doing its best to cultivate the dead wood, and even let Nishio Hunter obey his orders. I don't know the life experience of Shigemyu, and the past of AFO and All Might Nishio Hunter, the hatred for AFO can't help but deepen. Suddenly something connected, Nishio Hunter's movements suddenly stopped, and the whole person stood still. After the silence, he burst into a gloomy laugh. Jia, since teacher, you have failed, then I will inherit your inheritance and I will realize your dream. But this scene, you will never see it. There is also dead wood, I will come to you at the end, watching your horrified expression and stepping you into the soil. Nishio Hunter, whose temperament changed drastically, fell into madness, and the crazy laughter reverberated in the apartment. 4 days later, it seems that everyone's progress is pretty good. In the training ground, everyone is still training hard. Masato walked to All Might and said, "Possessed, Sombra." In the center of the field, with Tokiyami's order, the black shadow quickly got out of him, and then wrapped his body. Abyss Dark Body. This is the name of Tokiyami's nirvana. After covering the black shadow on the body surface, he can protect himself in the melee that he is not good at. Although the name is very second, I have to say that this makes up for him very well. The biggest shortcoming, Evil Tentacle. Grape quickly picked off the 2 spheres from his head and held them in his hands. Then, with his control, the 2 spheres became thinner and narrower, and finally became the same shape as 2 whips. It's not bad, I didn't expect it to be researched out by you. Masato could not help being surprised when he saw Grape's tricks. To be honest, he didn't expect much of Mineta at all. Now it seems that he underestimated him. Hey, have you seen this tentacle? If you are bound by it, you can't get rid of it at all, you can only let me push it. At the time, however, the things in his mind remained the same. It was just slowly liquid. He didn't want to hear the nonsense after him, so he grabbed a handful of Ciro's tape and sealed his mouth. Bakugo has even become his own nirvana, and this nirvana has been unanimously approved by the teachers. Armor-piercing bullets. Concentrate the body fluid on a point in your hand, and then conduct concentrated blasting. This is the mystery of Bakugo's trick. A thick concrete wall at close range was directly punched through a hole in a line of blasting. If it was placed in the past, it would be impossible for Bakugo to penetrate this wall with such a small amount of body fluid. This trick let his single attack power greatly strengthened. No matter how you look at it, it looks a bit like Might Shotgun. It seems that he is imitating that trick, right? That's right, whether it's the name or the way the skill is activated, the 2 tricks have many similarities. It is estimated that Bakugo was inspired by Masato's trick before launching the armor-piercing bullet. Cha-Cha's new combat uniform has been modified to wear on her body. On the new combat uniform, there are several jet switches all over her body, which can be freely jetted through Cha-Cha's control, which greatly improves her mobility in the air, whether it is to avoid attacks or approach villains are all very convenient usages. After being reminded by Masato, Green Valley also developed an attack method such as the shooting style. It is very simple. Under the boots, he can exert great power. It also protects his already somewhat unbearable arm. Most of the students' tricks have been recognized by Teacher Midnight, and they have become the must-kill that will accompany them throughout their lives. However, the most shocking thing is Yaoyorozu by heavy firepower armor. Following Yaoyorozu's imposing shout, her body was instantly enveloped by colorful light. After a few seconds, the light disappeared and was replaced by a set of black armor. The armor is densely covered with muzzles of different calibers, and there are 2 huge mortars on the shoulders. The black holes make people look a little bit cold. With Yaoyorozu's control, these muzzles suddenly glowed at the same time, and then countless bullets poured out from inside, and from time to time there was the sound of cannons mixed in. For a while, her figure was completely covered by gunpowder smoke. Nothing but a steady stream of gunfire. Unexpectedly, Yaoyorozu 10,000 girls has grown to this point. Seeing the scene in front of me, even All Might left a trace of cold sweat on his forehead. With such an intensive attack, I am afraid that ordinary flesh and blood will be beaten even without minced meat. Good money Jout right. The smoke cleared, and the students stared wide-eyed, trying to see what was inside. I saw a row of thick concrete walls in front of Yaoyorozu, all of them turned into a child powder floating in the air, and the cement man teacher was standing on the side with an embarrassed face, scratching with embarrassment. Head. This power is too terrifying. It's really too violent. I have some sympathy for it. The scene in front of them made the students directly explode, and they were discussing with each other. Yaoyorozu, who has been very gentle on weekdays, has developed such a terrifying nirvana. This is something they didn't expect at all. Ignoring their remarks, Yaoyorozu pressed a button, and the heavy fire armor fell off her body, holding a metal barrel in her hand. Yaoyorozu Shouju shook his head, and the long ponytail was in it. There was a nice arc in the air. Masato, how about this trick? Yaoyorozu's confident eyes, as well as her heroic figure, this completely different style from her usual style made Masato be stunned for a while. Chapter 235 Battle Suit, done. Igarashi, someone is looking for you at the door. At this time, Mr. Aizawa suddenly walked to the side of Masato and said to him, "It seems to be a student in the logistics department. Go over and see if it is someone you know." Hearing this, Jungta was overjoyed. In addition to the students in the Hero S department, the only students Jungta knew in Shangyu were the General Mentality and Hatsume Mei from the logistics department. At this time, Hatsume Mei came to find herself. It seems that his combat uniform is probably completed. Just as he thought, When he came to the gate of the Gamma training ground, Masato saw Hatsume carrying 2 large boxes in his hands, and greeted him with enthusiasm. "Hey, come over and take a look at your battle uniform. This is what I made all night over the past few days." Although Hatsume does not have the permission to modify the combat uniform, the Super Excavator teacher has it. In addition, the Super Excavator teacher is also very interested in this technology, so the two of them are fundamental in these 4 days without a good night's sleep. He drove out this combat uniform all night long. With excitement, Masato took the suitcase from Hatsume's hand and lay it flat on the ground to open the lid. I saw a set of fire red suit lying quietly in the box. Next to the suit was a pair of shiny leather shoes. In the other suitcase, there was a white cloak and a pair of black gloves. It was folded into 387 squares and placed in the middle of the box. "Because you gave too much hair, so this cloak is very long. I guess it can reach your calf after putting it on, right? I don't know what you are doing with such a cloak. I think it is useless." In terms of excitement, Hatsume is no worse than Masato. Although she and the Super Excavator teacher made this battle suit together, in fact, most of the processes were completed by her own hands, so from some kind of in a sense, at this time she made the first combat uniform. Haha, of course the role of the cloak is handsome. After hearing Hatsume's words, Masato touched his head in embarrassment and said that his combat uniform was completely designed according to the Admiral uniform in One Piece. In his previous life, he felt that Admiral's cloak was useless at all. May just represent Marine's strongest combat power, but out of commemoration of my quirk, I still have a heart. Masato still retains this design in the second episode of CC. Hurry up and put it on, and then try it. Only the owner of this type of combat uniform can exert its power. Can't wait. Hatsume already wants to see CDEI, her baby's debut, and constantly urges Masato to act quickly. Of course, Jungtai himself is also looking forward to his battle uniform. If it is really as expected, then he will be able to fight without scruples in the future. In the dressing room of the training ground, he changed into his brand new combat uniform. Together with Hatsume, Masato returned to the place where the students trained. "Jingtai, what are you?" The students who were still training saw the sudden change of Masato, and they all stopped the movements in their hands and looked at them curiously. The crimson suit completely outlines the body that is too strong. The strong chest muscles hold the suit tightly. The black gloves and leather shoes reflect light on them, giving people a strong posture. They are draped over the shoulders. The white cloak on the top gave him the style of a leader. On the back of the cloak, the 4 characters, Ember Messenger, and Masato's Ying were written on the back. The male name echoed far away. "Really handsome. Is this your new combat uniform?" Kirishima saw this set of equipment, and jumped directly from the cliff. He and Kirishima also improved their combat uniforms. Now he is more manly. "Ah, yes, this is fresh. You are his first audience." Touching the battle suit on her body, Masato is also a little bit fond of it. She doesn't know what black technology is used. It is obvious that the main material is her own hair, but the touch is the same as real fabric. And precisely because the material is his own hair, Masato feels that this battle suit and himself are almost one, like the cloak on the back. It is only lightly placed on the shoulders, but it will not fall off at all. When people see it, maybe they think it is some kind of magic. "Hey, Bakugo!" Preparing to test the performance of the combat uniform, Masato shouted at Bakugo. Bakugo, who was still trying his nirvana on the mountain, heard the shout of Masaru and looked at him with unkind eyes. "Say something, Magma B*********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** Bakugo was surprised by Masada's request. It was so boring to make such a request. However, Bakugo was very happy to be able to give Masada an explosion. Anyway, my own attack won't work on this B*****************. D. Then you can pick it up. Die. Seeing that there was already a jump in front of him at this time, his hands wrapped around a pose, Bakugo was not angry, and pointed at him with his palm. Armor-piercing bullets. The linear blast directly blasted a big hole in Masada's body, and other students in the class could even see Bakugo's fierce expression on the opposite side through the hole behind Masada. Hiss, it's really ruthless to start. Yes, Bakugo is too much. Hearing the discussion from the classmates on the ground, Bakugo turned his head angrily to them. What a roar. This B*********** D won't be hurt anyway. Obviously Masada asked to beat him, but it was himself who was scolded. Bakugo is in a very bad mood now. Die. He directly vented his anger on the gentleman in front of him, slapped his palm fiercely on the shoulder of the gentleman, and exploded one of his arms, and scattered on the ground into a pool of magma. Beware of constipation if you are so angry. Masada looked indifferent, but she still had the thought to tease him. Seeing the body that was already a little broken, the magma gushed out from the damaged place and quickly filled the hole in her body. And this time, even the clothes were changed back. Curiously touched the clothes on his body. It was still at a normal temperature, which means that this battle suit can indeed inherit its elemental characteristics. And just like his own body, Jungtae can do such a thing entirely by faith. Jungtae can't figure out the reason, but the result is perfect. My baby is really the best. Hatsume Mei, who had been watching from below, saw the effect of the battle uniform, and cheered happily, and then became a little drowsy, and lay on the ground for a while. There was a slight breathing sound. After 4 days of exhaustion, now that she finally saw her own results, she couldn't stand the temptation of the Sandman, and fell asleep deeply. Chapter 236 Before the Assessment. I really have to thank her this time, and you may be colleagues in the future. 100. Leaping down from the cliff, Hatsume Mei was looking at the peacefully sleeping Hatsume Mei and said to Yaoyorozu that after falling asleep, she did not have her usual vigorous temperament, instead she was quiet like a doll. When did you bring her into the gang again? And Hatsume Mei is from the logistics department, right? Because Masada hadn't mentioned this matter before, Yaoyorozu was a little surprised. Just when she helped me make a combat suit, although she is a logistics department, our hero's office can't just deal with the aspect of entrustment, and it will definitely expand like other fields at that time, and the name is very powerful. From now on we will have to count on her in combat uniforms. After passing through this combat uniform of her own, Masada's prejudice against Hatsume Mei has completely disappeared. Instead, she has a faint admiration for her. In today's society, people who can specialize in one thing and stick to it have already disappeared. There are very few, which is one of the reasons why he has such a high evaluation of Hatsume Mei. Just too big. You are so handsome today. Just as the two were talking, an untimely voice came in. Seeing Himiko Toga, whose face was flushed with two small tiger teeth, Masada's cold sweat broke out in an instant. After all, he slept with others all night. If he pretended to be indifferent, he couldn't do it at all. Such behavior can no longer be said to be scum, but a further existence. Why are you still pestering Jungma? The appearance of Himiko Toga made Yaoyorozu feel like a hen protecting a calf for 100 moments. As soon as he moved, he stopped in front of Jungta, and stopped crossing me who wanted to rush forward. Because I like being too big, I came here. Seeing that Jungta was blocked by someone, my brows collapsed instantly, and I was a little puzzled why Yaoyorozu would ask this question. And the last time I was too big, the person was also in the room, Halfway through the conversation, I was covered by the sweating Masada. After all, everyone is a classmate, and will get along for more than 2 years in the future, so she just said hello when she saw me, right, cross me. Some stumbling explanations, Masada winked at me, and I was not stupid, and my little head was a little crazy. That way, I always feel that you have something to hide from me. Yaoyorozu glanced at the two suspiciously, but after all, everyone has some privacy, and Masada's reason is indeed very reasonable, so she didn't go into it. Feeling a wet and glutinous sensation in the palm of my hand, as well as an itchy sensation, Jungtu quickly removed his hand from Du's face and put it behind my back and wiped it awkwardly. Ting. The trio's small movements obviously did not hide from the eyes of the classmates, and now a group of boys are already looking at Masada in good faith. Seeing the ugly faces of Kaminari and Mineta, I was too expecting that their wallets would get blood once, otherwise if they intentionally or unintentionally spread rumors about themselves in front of Yaoyorozu, then they will be in trouble in the future. Time is up, Class A. Suddenly, there was a loud roar from the door, which attracted everyone's attention, and also took advantage of the situation to help Masada out. According to the order of appointment, it's our turn to use the training ground in the afternoon. I saw Brad King, the head teacher of Class B, led a group of Class B students and walked in from the gate of the training ground. What a coincidence. Kaminari yelled sadly. He hasn't revealed his secret weapon yet. In the past few days, there has been a huge improvement in his combat uniform, which has made a qualitative change in his fighting style. After all, if it is the same as before, and can only discharge at close range, his attack methods are too monotonous, and the sequelae are too terrifying. When really fighting villains, others will not treat you because you are an idiot. Be merciful. Originally, he was going to use his skills as the finale, and set up a good wave of B, but now he knows that the training ground is no longer used by Class A, and his waiting is wasted. Can he not be sad? Eraser, take your students to retreat. Every second counts. Although Mr. Aizawa and Mr. Brad are very good friends in private, they have been secretly competing at work. For such a long time, Class A has been overpowering Class B. Brad's heart, there must be some upset. Do you know, the passing rate of the temporary license exam is only about 50%. Class A will definitely fail the exam collectively. The outspoken Grandpa Wujian saw the people in Class A and ran over to activate the group taunting skills as soon as his eyes lit up. However, for his character, everyone was basically immune to him, so he should be a joke now. For flowers, the battle clothes between the objects are a bit interesting. Masada looked at the combat uniform worn by the opponent and commented while pinching his chin. This is ordinary clothes. Where do you find it interesting? Kento also came over from the side and murmured after hearing Masada's words. After all, the quirk in the object is copy, so the combat uniform is not destined to play much role. This is somewhat similar to Masada. The 3 stopwatches in the belt are very careful. It seems that the quirk he copied is time-sensitive, right? I don't see that he is actually quite rigorous. After listening to Masada's words, Kento also observed carefully and found the 3 dials that Masada said, which actually changed her influence on things. 0. Since we are going to take the same exam, then we are villains. We are destined to not escape the fate of fighting each other. Wearing a black robe, Tokiyami made his second-degree exaggerated remarks, but it was mocked by Mr. Aizawa. That's why Class A and Class B applied for different examination rooms separately. You will never meet together. Just now, I was still talking about things, and when I heard Mr. Aizawa's words, it was petrified. He really didn't know it happened. In June and September each year, the Hero's qualification exam will be held at the same time in 3 domestic examination rooms. It has long been unwritten regulations. The Encyclopedia Yaoyorozu popularizes knowledge for everyone, and it also makes students realize it. But I still have to compete with other schools for places. And we also advance the normal test-taking process. However, even so, the students were still a little worried about the upcoming temporary license assessment. Hearing what the students said, Mr. Aizawa added fire. Even if you look at the whole country, there are very few who go to take the temporary license test in the first grade, that is to say. There will be many competitors who have experienced more training than you, and have the unknown quirk that have been tempered to appear in this exam. I hope everyone must be aware of it. The days passed by, and soon came the day of the temporary Hero S license exam. Chapter 237 Shiji High School. Examination venue, outside the National Dago Stadium. It's actually bigger than USJ. I don't know what to take this exam, hey I don't know if I can take it. After getting off the bus, everyone in Class A looked at the huge venue in front of them, and couldn't help being a little surprised, because the Duogu Stadium was too big, and it seemed that it would not be a problem to accommodate tens of thousands of people. Don't think about these useless things, get me a temporary license. Teacher Aizawa rarely showed that decadent state this time, but with a serious face. As long as you successfully pass this exam, you can say that you have taken the most important step on the path of professional Hero S. With a temporary license, you can be called semi-professional Hero S. Come on. Although I keep talking about how difficult the assessment of the temporary license is, Mr. Aizawa is still very optimistic about the Class A students. His goal is to pass all the students, and I don't want to see any student being eliminated in this assessment. Then, let's post our fixed slogan. The enthusiasm of Che 23 Island was full of enthusiasm, and he quickly raised his hand to lead the classmates to shout, but did not realize that a slab-inch young man wearing a dark blue military cap had appeared behind him. Hey, this person is. Yaoyorozu had noticed it, and she seemed to be familiar with this young boy, as if she had seen it somewhere. Plus ultra, quote, far louder than Kirishima's voice, this sturdy young man stood behind Kirishima and shouted out Shongying's school motto with everyone. This strange behavior directly surprised everyone. When did it get behind me? Kirishima, who had taken the lead, shouted in surprise. He didn't feel anyone approaching him just now. The sudden shout really scared him. This classmate, may I ask you? Masada looked at the young man in front of him and was a little speechless. His uniform was not Shongying's, right? That is to say, he was someone who sneaked in. It's not right to get into someone else's circle and shout the slogan together, yell in Inasa. At this time, the boy's companion named Inasa also walked up from behind. They all wore the same uniform and this extremely high-resolution military cap, which attracted everyone's attention. Ah, sorry. Hearing the question from the wife, Ran Inasa touched the smooth back of his head embarrassedly and let out a big laugh. I like Shongying very much. I've long wanted to come to this plus ultra. While talking, Yalan Inasa quickly put his fingers close to her thigh, and then quickly bent down her waist. Yaran Inasa from Corporal Jia High School. Shongying everyone, I was really embarrassed just now. It is an honor to be able to compete with Shongying on the same stage here. Please give me your advice. With a loud bang, Yalan Inasa's forehead hits the ground violently, making Class A students only feel that the soles of their feet shake, and the hat on his head follows this impact, flew towards the back. Hey, what's the matter with this guy who feels like he can overcome all difficulties with enthusiasm? You have to add Kirishima and Iida together and multiply the square to reach his height. What about this school uniform and hat? This action of Yalan Inasa made everyone stunned, and what followed was a lot of complaints. Just now, there was no fraud at all, it was very painful to look at. However, the information in Yalan Inasa's words surprised everyone. As the saying goes, there is Shongying in the east and Shiji in the west. Shiji High School is one of the best in the country. 4 rival schools. It's interesting, anyone who comes here has such a big background. After Yaoyorozu's explanation, Junta also understood the origin of this group of people wearing military caps. It seems that they are a powerful opponent in the provisional license assessment. By the way, are you really okay? Looking at Yalan Inasa's current state, Masada's mouth twitched a little. It's bleeding all over the forehead. Also, why is your bowing different from other style of painting? Don't worry, I'm fine at all. The whole person was like standing in a military posture. Yilan Inasa put his hat on top of his head, and his face was full of excited smiles. This attitude made Masita couldn't help but think of Iida. It really looks like Iida was also standing upright at this time. Judging from the posture, he was exactly the same as Yalan Inasa. Of course, he was not the opponent's opponent at all in momentum. Inasa, it's time to go. Seeing that Yalan Inasa still wanted to communicate with Shongying's people, a group of people from Shiji High School yelled him away, and when he heard the shouts of his predecessors, Yalan Inasa also lowered his waist again, saying after apologizing, he followed them and left. You have to be careful with this guy. Mr. Aizawa, who had not spoken before, stood by and watched the farce suddenly said, he is very strong. Teacher, do you know this passionate idiot who can't run out of energy? Hearing what Aizawa-sensei said, Masada asked curiously, could it be said that Yalan Inasa is so powerful that he is so famous? But he has never heard of it. I remember now, I really want to see him in the entrance examination for exemption at that time. Yaoyorozu finally remembered where this sense of familiarity came from. There was a big news in her words. Huh, then why isn't he our classmate? Could it be that he failed the exam? Facing the doubts of his classmates, Mr. Aizawa 390 explained. After he passed the exam with the first place, he voluntarily gave up his qualifications for admission. This incident also caused a disturbance in Shongying at that time. After hearing the words of the two, Lu Jiyu frowned. It turns out to be a first grade like us. I originally thought that their group of first-year students was a special case, but I didn't expect another one to appear now. Sure enough, there are not a few powerful people, and the pride of heaven is far more than the Shongying. As a recommended student, I won the first place. Everyone's eyes turned to Boom involuntarily. Doesn't this mean that Yelena Inasa's strength is still above Boom? Hey, I didn't expect you to lose to that guy, Boom. He put his arms around Boom's shoulders, and said in a daunting manner that the Boom was very strong when I first enrolled in school, but I was thrown away by myself later. I have no impression of him. However, Boom's face did not show any accommodating expression, and his face was still indifferent, which made Masada feel a little boring. Well, I don't know if he can bring me some surprises. The recent days are really dull. Seeing some eager Masada, Mr. Aizawa was a bit speechless. Even if Yelena Inasa is stronger, he can't be compared with your monster. But to other students, he is indeed a strong enemy. Chapter 238 Crowd People. Huh, isn't this a racer? Just when everyone was worried, a sunny and cheerful female voice came from behind them. The moment he heard this voice, Aizawa-sensei's face was darkened at a speed visible to the naked eye, as if something terrifying had been encountered. Looking back, everyone saw a stylishly dressed woman walking towards them with a smile on her face. As she walked, she said, I saw you on TV when Shongying had a sports meeting. It's been a long time since we wanted to meet directly like this. Hey, this person is. Lugu seemed to recognize the identity of this woman, but before he could speak, everyone understood why Aizawa-sensei's face was so ugly. Let's get married. Puff. This shocking remark made the classmates' eyes widen in an instant. Looking at the scenes in front of them that looked like a situation drama in the evening, all kinds of strange plots continued to appear in their hearts. I didn't expect this dead fisheye to be liked by anyone. Jung Tai was full of face and couldn't believe it. Although Aizawa-sensei is very handsome after seriously dressing up, he is usually a sloppy uncle with him. A beautiful woman is so direct and active in courtship, it seems that there is a hidden secret in it. What? But on the contrary, in the face of the sudden confession, Aizawa-sensei was quite cold. No, it can be described as indifference, and categorically rejected the request. Do not want. Sure enough, was it rejected? It's so funny. Just when everyone felt chilled by Aizawa-sensei's hard-hearted feelings, thinking that this woman was going to cry desperately, she suddenly burst into laughter. But Aizawa-sensei seems very accustomed to this. Your jokes are still so hard to resist. At this time, Green Valley, who is a hero's know-it-all, finally revealed the identity of this woman. Hilarious hero's Ms. Joke. Her quirk is hilarious, which can force people to congress nearby. Laugh, so as to paralyze the opponent's thinking and actions. The way she fights villains is super crazy. After hearing this quirk, Masada can only feel that the world is full of wonders, and it can make people laugh in the air. This involves the nerve level. The quirk in this world is really terrifying. Speaking of which, if we two get married, we will be able to build a happy family with endless laughter. Ms. Joke didn't seem to give up, and continued to pester Aizawa-sensei. However, in the face of Aizawa-sensei who was single for 30 years, such an offensive was useless. Laugh. Actually, this is not wrong, right? As long as there is this quirk, there must be constant laughter at home. Masada looked at Yaoyorozu Hyaku and said, do you think we will do it in the future? Before he finished speaking, the embarrassed Yaoyorozu hit his head with a hand knife and stopped Jung Tai's words. There are so many people here, and she is not as thick as Jung Tai. Your relationship is really good. Asui looked at the two people as if they were singing a crosstalk, and couldn't help speaking. Ah, our office was very close before, so in the process of helping each other, we have been in love with each other for a long time. However, before the voice was over, Aizawa-sensei interrupted her words. It's impossible at all, it's out of nothing. Love for a long time. I'm sure I heard it right. The eyes of Masada looking at Aizawa teacher are a little weird. Okay, the above is just the self-confidence of Igarashi. Why, do your students also come to rely on temporary licenses? Because the two were familiar with each other before, Aizawa-sensei naturally knew that Ms. Joke came here as a classroom at this time, so he asked. That's right, come here, everyone, Shongying is here. Hearing what Mr. Aizawa said, Ms. Joke also turned his head and waved behind him. Under her greeting, a group of students immediately walked up. Walking at the forefront of the team is a young man with black slightly curly hair. He looks very sunny and handsome. I don't know why, seeing his Masada feels like seeing the Li Sheng brother of Green Valley. It's just a hair color. Oh, it's really them. Before approaching, he said, very happy and excited in his words. That's right, it's all people who have been on TV. I came to test the temporary license in the first grade. The pace is quite fast, no wonder, after all, so many things have happened. As expected, Shongying is really different. Under the amazement of this group of students, Ms. Joke introduced them, Juwu Academy High School Grade 2 Class 2. I am their head teacher, please give me some advice. My name is Juntang. The black-haired boy before was very familiar, stepped forward and grabbed Masada's hand and swayed constantly. I know you, Igarashi classmate, right. You were really strong. Faced with Juntang's enthusiasm, Masato was a bit disapproving. The looming intuition in his heart told him that Juntang was not as friendly as he was on the surface. Anyway, after entering this venue, it was villains, so Masato didn't bother to play home games with him, and went back fiercely. Ah, you can see it all, I am super strong, I will play as many opponents as you like. Quote. Faced with Masato's unconventional words of playing cards, Juntang was obviously taken aback, but soon a smile appeared on his face. This year's Shongying has happened so many things in a row, it is really hard for you. While talking, Juntang kept shaking hands with Class A classmates. But you are still unswervingly moving towards Hero S. I think the unyielding mind is one of the essential qualities of Hero S. A positive remark, coupled with his quite clean appearance, soon Class A had a good sense of him. However, Bakugo is an exception. Facing Juntang's outstretched hand, he directly slapped it away, showing that it was the same as Masato. He also felt that Juntang's words and heart did not match up at all. After that, the rest of the students of Juwu Academy also chatted with the people of Class A, and everyone stayed in the school on weekdays. There were not many opportunities to communicate with students and students from other schools like this. Everyone in Wushueyuan kept complimenting, and the class of classmates were also a little airy. Unexpectedly, our name is so big, it looks like a star. Yes, this is the first time I have experienced the difference between the two characters Chongying. Seeing the classmates who seemed to be forgotten, Masato was a little worried, but did not say anything. Some things can only be remembered for a lifetime after personal experience. I am afraid that this time the class of classmates will suffer a little loss. But for Masato, the problem is not big. If there is no accident, I should be able to protect everyone's safety, so in the face of these malicious foreign school students, let them first have a good time. Chapter 239 First Round of Exams. After going to the locker room to change into their battle uniforms, everyone followed the crowd to the examination hall to listen to the lecture. The whole hall has been filled by a person preparing to take the exam. These people come from the Funny Hero S section from all over the country. They glanced at it too roughly. I am afraid there will be at least 1,000 people. That will be the next provisional license examination. After reaching the stipulated time, regardless of whether there were candidates or not, a white-haired man who had been lying on the summit platform raised his head and yawned. His face was full of decadence and listlessness. Ah, besides, I'm Muliang of the Hero S Public Security Committee. My favorite sleep state is deep sleep. Please take care of me. Before he finished speaking, Muliang yawned again, because he was in a state of severe sleep shortage to prepare for this massive temporary license exam. What's the matter with this strong sense of sight? This man doesn't conceal his exhaustion at all. Is he really okay? Everyone in Class A was a little dumbfounded. How does this Muliang and Aizawa Shota look like? They are the kind of people who are not raunchy, and have drooping eyelids all day long, and Mr. Aizawa also spends all his time to sleep on weekdays. The 390 exam this time, to put it bluntly, is to let the 1,540 candidates present have a practical exercise where the winner is king. Muliang's explanation is very brief, which surprised everyone in the audience a little, but they have also prepared for this. After all, the stage is always reserved for the strong, and those who can come here to take the exam, everyone will think that they are weak. Now it can be said that it is an era of Hero S saturation. Since Stain was arrested and imprisoned, questions about the status quo of Hero S have been endless, and many Hero S have devoted themselves to Hero S business. Later, the time consumed from the beginning of the incident to its resolution was indeed reduced astonishingly. After you get the temporary license, you will also plunge into this torrent. For those who can't adapt to this speed, I'm afraid you will fall behind halfway. Speaking of this, Muliang finally said the evaluation criteria for this assessment, so this time we must focus on testing everyone's speed. The first 100 candidates who meet the requirements first will receive a temporary license. After hearing the number of people who passed, the faces of all the candidates changed drastically, and they blew up the pot directly. This is not the same as the 50% pass rate in previous years. In one round of assessment, the pass rate is only 6%. Grape broke his fingers and counted it. After repeatedly confirming that he hadn't made a mistake, he was dumbfounded. In the test room where such monsters are rampant, he wants to pass this test. If we want all 20 people to pass, it will be even more difficult, right? Yayoro Zubai also looked at the people in Class A with some worry, for fear that some of her classmates would be eliminated, but she was not worried about herself. The new Nirvana technique gave her great confidence. For this temporary license, she is still in force. It's okay. It's all trash fish anyway. As for Masato, it was even more indifferent. Looking at the surrounding students from other schools who seemed to have tears falling, he lazily said that such opponents simply made him unable to boost his strength. Big brother, you will help me pass. For sure. At this time, Grape remembered that he still had a powerful elder brother, and squeezed directly next to Jungtai and looked at him with tears in his eyes. I disliked the grapes and pushed them away. Look at that time. If I can help, I will definitely help, but you still don't have too much expectations. After all, even if I helped you this time, the next test will still be dependent on yourself. This kind of temporary license examination is actually the same as some professional qualification examinations. You may pass cheating and pass at that time, but once it is tested in practice, such people are easy to reveal. so Masato can only ensure that his classmates are not eliminated as much as possible. As for the ability CDEI to pass, it depends on their own level. Mu Liang was also not surprised by the reaction of everyone in the audience. After all, this year is indeed different from previous years. After all, the overall situation of the society is like this, so the right should be your bad luck, right? Randomly pulled an excuse, Mu Liang ignored the candidate's wailing, and continued to explain on his own, and on the big screen behind him, it also showed vivid animations to avoid candidates who could not understand his words. Next, talk about the specific requirements. From under the table, he took out a disc-like target and a small ball, and Mu Liang raised them up and showed them to everyone. Each candidate must place these 3 targets on his body surface, but they must be placed in a prominent position that can be seen at any time, such as the soles of the feet or under the armpits, which violates the regulations. After that, we will issue 6 such small balls to each examinee. Only when the balls are accurately hit, the target will emit light. After all 3 targets enter the light-emitting state, they will fall off the examinee's body surface. A candidate who hits the 3rd target on another person like this will be judged as successfully knocked down 1 person. As long as the candidate can knock down 2 people in this way, even if it meets the requirements, the rules of this exam are like this. Oh, in addition, candidates are not allowed to use quirk to destroy their own objects. Such behavior is also a foul. After talking about the specific rules, Mu Liang suddenly opened his mouth to add something, which caused the people in Class A to immediately turn their eyes to Zheng Tai. If there are so many people present, who is the most likely to destroy these targets, so it must be the non-Masato. It's really troublesome. This thing doesn't endure high temperatures at first glance. Silently looked at the target waving in Mu Liang's hand, he couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. Since there are such regulations, then his elementalization is definitely not free to use, even those large-scale skills. Don't dare to use it indiscriminately. After all, here are all test takers, not the heinous people. It's a bit like the entrance exam, but it's completely different. Lu Jiyu has now fallen into his analysis, and there is a circle of people around him, wanting to hear what his data emperor will say, so that he has a bottom in his heart. Because facing a robot is completely different from facing a human, and the number of small balls we have coincides with the passing line. Is this implying that we are going to use any means to hit the 3rd target object on other people? LD Gu's analysis of the truth made others in Class A nod their heads. Although there are some suspicions of robbing people, this is indeed a shortcut to victory. But Masato has a different view. Chapter 240 Hunting Heroes. You don't have to think about it so much, right? Others are not the target standing there and let you hit, they will definitely hide. And we don't know the villain's quirk, so it is still difficult to do such an operation. Although for Masato, the goal of hitting 3 balls on someone else is definitely not simpler, but now he analyzes it from the perspective of ordinary candidates, so he said this has been unanimously agreed by everyone. Just catch a group of people first, and then while depriving them of their personal freedom, put the ball in the target, right? Anyway, everyone will definitely act together at that time, right? If this is the case, our number may be accounted for. Excellent, that's it. Just now, I only thought about hit. If I think about it carefully, maybe the focus of the exam is here. After hearing Masato's words, Lugu also suddenly realized that from this perspective, it seems that cooperation is the key to the first round of exams. After unfolding, these objects and small balls will be sent to you by the staff. 1 minute after everyone has got the knives, the exam will officially begin. At this time, several staff members also came to the summit stage with a big box, which contained the props needed this time. Expand. Hearing this strange word, Zheng looked over his head thoughtfully. Before, he felt that compared with the huge outside, this venue was too small, and it seemed that there was a mystery hidden here. The ceiling of the hall was quickly pulled open towards the sides, while the surrounding walls fell towards the outside. Everyone's pupils widened in an instant, and they looked at everything around in an incredible way. Empty and huge, the place where everyone is standing is only a small piece in the center of the assessment field, and beside them, there are various terrains. From reinforced concrete buildings in neighborhoods with strong living atmosphere, to industrial production factories, to towering mountains, lush dense forests, and large lakes, the terrain for examinations has everything, just like an enlarged version of USJ. Fixing the target in front of him, Masato is very entangled now. If he can easily lead the class of students to pass the first level of assessment, but if this is the case, it is weird in his heart not to say whether the reviewers can recognize such results. But if something happens and someone in Class A is eliminated, he will definitely not feel good. After all, after so many days, he is also looking at the hard training of the students, and he is preparing for this moment. Seeing the Masato who seemed to be at war between heaven and man, Yaoyorozu seemed to see through his inner thoughts, and walked up and patted his shoulder with a helpless look. You only need to think about yourself, even if you want to help the classmates. People may not be happy to pass the exam. It seems to be too. After Yaoyorozu's words, he woke up in an instant. Except for Grape, the rest of Class A have a strong self-esteem. If they easily pass the exam with their own help, they must have a hurdle in their hearts that they can't get through, right? Even your own kindness will be counterproductive. Yes, we are also very strong, don't underestimate us. Hearing the conversation between the two, Kaminari and Kirishima also walked over and said to Masato with a confident face, especially Kaminari, who kept stroking the new equipment in his hand, seeming to be ready for a big fight. Ha ha ha, then everyone, come on. At this time, almost everyone got the device, and Muliang announced the start of the game. Well, everyone should have their own good at and headaches. Try to make use of their strengths and try to be qualified. As the smoke from the falling wall dissipated, everyone went out to the surroundings, trying to occupy the powerful terrain to take advantage. How about it, do you want to act with me? Looking at Yaoyorozu Hayako Cha-Cha, who was eager to try, she turned her head and asked. Green Valley has taken the lead in rushing out with a bunch of people, and Boom is acting alone, and separated from the team. There are 3 people, Bakugo, Kirishima, and Kaminari. After all, not everyone likes collective action. Sometimes collective action is not conducive to the exertion of strength. Masada Hibang is a good example. No, this time the 2 of us decided to form our own team to test our progress during this period. Unexpectedly, Yaoyorozu rejected Masada's kindness very simply and neatly, and Cha-Cha looked at Masada a little embarrassed, obviously not planning to act with him. Feeling disliked, Masada felt miserable for a while, but Masada would naturally not object to the 2 having this fighting spirit, and he was extremely relieved of the strength of the 2 women. Well, let's go out and meet again when the time comes. I'll go first. Waved to the 2 of them, Masada looked around for a while, and ran towards the place with the most people. Although it is not good to directly help the students in Class A, it must be good to clean up more people, right? ... Beg for flowers. By the way, you didn't expel any students. It seems that you are very optimistic about this class of students. But Eraser, why don't you tell them? Aizawa-sensei and MS Joke were sitting in the audience at this time, watching the people below who were already in action. At this time, MS Joke was asking him with a puzzled look. Because there is no need at all. Aizawa's eyes were full of bloodshot eyes, and it seemed that he didn't sleep well yesterday, but he still watched everyone's actions without turning his eyes off. Obviously, he cared very much about his class. Isn't it necessary? Ms. Joke was very surprised. You must know that although the format of the temporary license assessment has changed every year, there is a similar unspoken rule, but it always exists. 0. Among the high schools that are in a competitive relationship, the only high school that has lost the quirk unknown collective advantage, and it is still in the sports event, not only quirk, even the weaknesses and fighting methods are all known in the world. The prestigious school is Shongying High School. If you are really optimistic about this class, you should tell them in advance about the fixed item hunting Shongying after the temporary license starts. However, Mr. Aizawa did not answer him. He still stared at the bottom closely, as if he had become a wooden person. I really don't understand what Aizawa Shota's idea was, and Ms. Joke followed his gaze. Hey, isn't that a student in your class? It's called Igarashi Masada, right? He was very eye-catching during the sports festival. Seeing a person walking on the road, Ms. Joke shouted in surprise. She did not participate in the Battle of the Wild, so she did not know the true strength of Masada. Now seeing Masada acting alone, immediately shouted out. Because Masada is now trapped in the encirclement of many surrounding schools. And he doesn't seem to notice it yet. If you said hunting Shongying, this is the case, then I suggest you keep your eyes open and look carefully. Teacher Aizawa finally spoke. I didn't intend to keep them secret. After all, no matter what I say or not, the reality will not change. Moreover, this year of Shongying is terrifyingly strong. For a long time, Chapter 241 Observation Hockey. Could it be said that Masatahui really didn't find these people who faintly surrounded him? The answer is of course no. As I said before, Masada's 5 senses are very sharp now, and this group of students is not professional. At the beginning, Masada noticed their existence. Well, really calm. Don't you want to be the first one or feel that there is not enough manpower? The topography of Masada's current place is very complicated. There are buildings on the left and right, a high hill in front, and the scene after the explosion is simulated at the back. There are piles of rubble everywhere, and it is a place that is very easy to ambush. At this time, he was swaying slowly on a small road. Since the opponent couldn't come out, he didn't bother to pick them out one by one. That would be too laborious and not in line with the basic law of Masada. 390. However, it is clear that some people are uncomfortable with this laid-back look of Masada. Is this the first place in the Shongying Sports Festival? It's too arrogant. A student suddenly jumped out of the building, and then squeezed the ball in his hand and came towards Masada. His place was Masada's blind spot, so he didn't feel that Masada could escape his blow. It's finally here. Who knows? Masada didn't even turn his head, and walked a small step to the side, and escaped the attack of this unknown dragon. Nani, how did you escape? The attacking dragon sleeve couldn't believe his eyes at all, and the boy in front of him could not have long eyes on the back of his head. In fact, Masada didn't know what happened just now, but suddenly his heart tightened, and then a picture flashed through his mind, and then instinctively told him that he should dodge, so he moved a step to the side, knowing that it happened to have escaped the attack. Could it be that the previous instinct is helping me again? I was overjoyed. This was a good thing that Masada hadn't thought of. The power that was very similar to what I saw, if I could awaken, would be a great help to myself. As the dragon-clad man frightened the snake, other people around couldn't help but rushed out from where they were hiding. Take it, Shongying. The so-called shots refer to you. Even if you are the number 1 in the sports festival, you can't stop the attack of so many of us. Facing the most famous Shongying college in the country, these classmates from various schools are rarely united at this time, and they all rushed towards Masada. After all, if you kill him, the proud son of heaven, then your fame is certain. There is a great improvement. Sometimes, it is too slow to climb up honestly step by step, stepping up on someone else's body is the fastest shortcut. However, this method also has risks, that is, the identity of the prey and the hunter may be changed at any time. It's just right, use you as my sharpening stone. Seeing the small ball flying towards him, Jung was too surprised and rejoiced. Instead of avoiding it, he closed his eyes instead. Hey, what are you doing as a student? No matter how strong he is, he shouldn't look down on people so much. Seeing Jungtae's performance, Ms. Joke shook the shoulders of Mr. Aizawa on the side with a shocked look. This was an exam that was about the future, and Jungtae's performance was too big in her eyes. Although there was no expression on his face, Mr. Aizawa's heart was also surprised at this time, and he couldn't figure out what medicine was sold in the gourd, but for his trust, Mr. Aizawa was still determined to continue watching. I believe Igarashi must have his own thoughts in doing this. Seeing Jungtae who was already surrounded by airtight balls, Aizawa-sensei could only choose to believe him. And what about the wife at this time? Black, pitch black. This is how Masada feels now. Because he lost his vision, Masada could only move his ears hard, listen to any sounds around him, and then feel the looming instinct in his heart. This instinct finally appeared, and he didn't want to give up this hard-won opportunity. This is why he made such a risky action. Moreover, Masada is also confident. Even if his plan fails, he can react in the first time and fly all these small balls. This is a manifestation of his incomparable confidence in his own strength. Snapped. There was a gust of wind, and it was too late to dodge. A small ball hit his head directly, but before he had time to manage the pain on his head, another small ball flew towards him. This time, Masada seemed to vaguely felt the direction of the small ball flying. On one side, the ball's attack was dodged, but in an instant, countless balls came back towards the back. Although he had felt it, the small ball the number is too large, and all his escape routes have been blocked. No matter which direction he dodges, he will be hit. This kid has given up resistance. Everyone, try harder. Shang Ying Elite is this kind of stuff. Don't be afraid, everyone. Seeing Masada standing there like a stake and letting it attack, the people around became more vigorous, and the balls in his hands were constantly throwing out. The ocean of small balls seemed to drown Masada. In this most critical one, Masada's dark world, it seems that a light suddenly appeared. If he just vaguely felt that something was coming in the dark, then at this time, that one. The light, in the darkness, really turned into small balls and flew towards him. After seeing this scene, Masada's figure that originally wanted to dodge to the side stopped in an instant, stood still, twisted his body constantly, and dodged one ball after another. Attack. This is how the same thing. Seeing that Masada is like willow leaves, flying in the ocean of small balls, but there is no figure that is really hit at all. 4.8 Everyone present, and MS in the stands. Joke and Aizawa-sensei are both big surprised. Is this the feeling of seeing and hearing? This feeling that everything seems to be in my own hands is really wonderful. There is quite a kind of attitude of, passing through thousands of flowers, no leaves are touching. Masada is now dodge and move in the circle of small balls with a comfortable face, and the figure of Yuga makes people unable to believe that he is in the man under siege. The situation around him is completely perceivable by Masada, and he can make certain predictions. This is the observation hockey that Masada took a risk and awakened just now. Chapter 242 Kill 300 people instantly. You student, in the end. The magnificent transformation that Masada suddenly completed, I just showed MS Joke directly. She knows that Masada is quirk, and the magma has nothing to do with the scene in front of her. To be honest, I don't know. Seeing that Masada successfully resolved the crisis, Aizawa-sensei, who was still a little worried before, also returned to the indifferent look at this time. I can't see his actual strength anymore. It's a lie, he's still just a student. Ms. Joke is obviously not convinced by Mr. Aizawa's high evaluation of Masada. Even if he is the first in the sports festival, he won't surpass you, Eraser. She is familiar with Mr. Aizawa and knows his strength very well. Although he is only 30 years old, Mr. Aizawa's strength is very strong in the entire Japanese hero's circle. It is just that he is a teacher in Shangdying. For this reason, the reputation is not obvious. In the Battle of the Wild, that mysterious hero is him. This news is not a secret in the professional hero's circle in Tokyo, plus I believe that Ms. Joke is a person, so Mr. I-23 Zawa revealed the news. Hearing this, Ms. Joke also had nothing to say. She also watched the live broadcast at the time. The battle between Masada and AFO overturned her understanding of the word, human. From this point of view, Aizawa Shota is indeed true. Did not lie to him. As for the difference in the color of the magma, it is also normal. Many people's quirks will change with the improvement of their strength. Masada is also one of these people. No longer entangled with these questions, the two continued to look at the battlefield. Although Masada has escaped the attack, there are close to 300 people here. So many people use quirk to attack him. I am afraid Masada will not feel good, right? After all, the conditions of this assessment, but his elementalization is firmly restricted, and Yenjisuzuo is even more impossible. NS. And what about Masada? At this moment, he was looking at the crowd gradually walking in with a funny face, and gradually enclosing him. What's wrong? No ball. That's right, after so many attacks just now, even if everyone has 6 balls, they are all exhausted. Now that this group of people are close, they are obviously ready to fight him. Since my purpose has been achieved. Looking at the surroundings, there was obviously a little jealousy, and some people who dared not step forward, pushing each other next to each other, were too boring for a while. As Hero S, you should be good at reversing the crisis, but what about the group of people in front of you? Facing a powerful opponent, you don't even have the courage to do it. After twisting his neck, Masada didn't even have the interest to talk to them. The miscellaneous fishes will leave. His eyes suddenly kicked, and a powerful aura erupted from his body. The ground around him seemed to have received some impact, cracking every inch, and the rubble was constantly tumbling. Boom, boom, there was a soft sound of something falling to the ground. Whether it was the students around Masada or the Xiao Xiao who was hiding in the dark to prepare for the fisherman's profit, one by one, his eyes widened and fell to the ground, and finally the entire venue in the middle, only Masada is standing alone. This kid's aura is getting more and more terrifying. In the stands, Mr. Aizawa took a deep breath. Although he had known that Masatai had a strange ability that could shock other people's minds, this was the first time he saw it with his own eyes. Without a lot of effort, 300 elites from all over the country were killed. Having worked in the industry for so many years, I have seen countless powerful characters, but with such a terrifying spirit, Aizawa Shota has only seen Masada. Even All Might is no exception. The MS joke next to her had completely lost the ability to speak at this time, and her usual uninterrupted smile had disappeared from her face. Now she can only pray that her students will not meet Jung Tai. What kind of temper is the student in her class? She knows very well, if it encounters it, it will be a disaster. Ah, someone has been eliminated. Outside the venue, Muliang watched the data on his laptop suddenly fluctuate and reluctantly opened his eyes. It was obvious that he was supplementing his sleep just now. However, in the next second, his sleepiness disappeared completely. 304 people are disqualified. What happened in the end? Having been an examiner for so many years, this was the first time I saw such a situation, and I couldn't help turning on the monitoring in the venue, wanting to see what happened while I was asleep. And his words also spread to the ears of all the students along with the broadcast. Within a few minutes of the exam, more than 300 people were eliminated. This is undoubtedly a huge blow to the majority of candidates. There are monsters in this exam. It's scary. I want to go home. The sigh spread throughout the venue for a while, and the examinees lost their fighting spirit when they thought that they were going to compete with such a monster. However, there are some exceptions. It's amazing. It must have been made by Masada. Cha-Cha thought of Masada the first time he heard the broadcast, but Masada explained to her conqueror's hockey, and only this kind of terrifying ability can weed out so many people in an instant. We can't fall behind, come on. Yaoyoro Zubai, who was next to her, also felt that the movement was too irritating. After all, he was not a peaceful lord since he was a child. After giving Cha-Cha an encouraging look, the two again looked for their prey. Well, because I was surprised just now, my sleepiness subsided temporarily. Igarashi-san just eliminated 304 opponents, but he didn't. He didn't pass. The next battle should become more intense, right? The reason why Masada failed, naturally, was that he didn't use the ball to touch the target of the group of people on the ground. If the first round of the exam was ended so quickly, it would be too boring, right? He was well prepared. Have fun. What? Isn't this monster planning to leave here? Does he want to kill us all at once? I'll fight again next year. After hearing this unfortunate news, the candidates who were already very scared were now in deep despair. The other party was obviously not prepared to give them a way to survive. But this Magma B************* D really likes to show off. Now that there are people who are scared, and of course, there are also people who are unhappy. The expression on Bakugo's face at this time is very scary, as if he is going to eat Masada raw. Haha, don't talk like that. After all, Masada's strength is obvious to all, so let's think about how we will pass. Kirishima smiled and eased the atmosphere, but it seemed that Bakugo's face was darker. Now is not the time to discuss this. Villains has already appeared. Hearing the conversation between the two, Kaminari shouted anxiously on the side. They are now on an overpass. Opposite them, there is a man in Shiji High School uniform standing, looking at the three of them with indifference. Villains. This person from Ming Shiji High School obviously didn't come here with the purpose of making friends. Bakugo turned his head and looked at the opposite party's expressionless face, his tone full of arrogance. Then blast him into scum. Chapter 243 Kaminari's New Equipment. It is the obligation of our Shiji students to wear the hats distributed by the school during activities. This famous student did not pay attention to Bakugo's barking device, but said to himself blankly. Why do you ask? Because our every move carries the glorious tradition of Shiji High School. The narrow eyes were slightly narrowed, making the pupils that were difficult to see completely concealed. The man named Rukang Ginger waved his hands, as if he was showing his strength, and under his feet, there was several meat masses of various shapes. From the beginning of enrollment, we who have learned responsibility and reserve, and you who act arrogantly for the purpose of Hero S, there is such a huge gap. Facing the meat storehouse who was chattering and ignoring other people's feelings, talking completely about the conversation that the situation does not want to do at this time, Bakugo's forehead has a tic-tac-toe. It's the kind of person I'm most annoying. Kirishima and Kaminari are even more confused. Kaminari, who is not very good at his brain, even directly expresses his thoughts. What's the matter with this guy? Is he just talking about humans? What about me to not understand at all? Then I will translate it for you. My eyes are too small, so I can't see the strength of my opponent. In terms of irritating people, Bakugo has always been far ahead of everyone. Perhaps he is too subtle, and now he does not need to be dirty at all, and he can easily provoke other people's anger. Obviously, he was poked to the pain point, and the meat warehouse squinted his eyes wide, but it still didn't seem to be very obvious. My eyes are big, and my eyesight is very good. This guy is crazy, right? It seems that the brain is not normal. Let's go quickly. I heard that there are some strange protection laws for neurosis. However, the scene before them made the trio even more vigorous, discussing frantically across the fiery meat warehouse. I respect Shongying High School very much in my heart. It is a great honor for me to have the honor to play against your school. Knowing that his mouth is not as good as those three people, Rukang decided to do it directly. If Masada is here, he will definitely praise him. If he can do it, then he will never be BB. Speaking of this, Rukang's left hand suddenly turned into a pool of fleshy mud, and then separated from his body, twisting constantly behind him, and finally turned into several fleshy things. But the first grade Class A is full of underconduct people, let me correct you. This is the quirk of the meat warehouse, essential meat. It can change the shape of the body through kneading, and even knead the body of others into a ball. As for his own body, the degree of freedom is even higher. He can even disperse the body as he wants, and it can be huge. With the roar of the meat storehouse, the meatball around him was like bullets, and it hit the three of Bakugo. Although I don't know what these are, I just need to fly them. Facing the attack of the meat storehouse, Kirishima, the bloody head, couldn't help but jump out first, quickly hardened his body, and then slammed a hard fist towards these meatballs. Puppy. Kirishima was taken aback by the touch from his hand. The masses of meat were not blown away by him, but stuck to his hands like a puddle of mud. It's disgusting. Looking at the meatball that surrounded her fists and couldn't shake it no matter what, Kirishima shouted disgustingly while shaking her arms, but this was useless. Humph. Seeing Kirishima's performance, Rukang's eyes closed and he let out a sneer. When you were met by me, you already lost. Under Kirishima's expression of astonishment, the muddy flesh on his hands suddenly spread on his arms, swelling and assimilating, and finally Kirishima turned into the same flesh as the ground in the eyes of the other two. Ball. So these things on the ground were originally human beings. Seeing Kirishima being thrown around as a ball, Kaminari couldn't help but feel a chill. The most powerful part of this quirk is actually above the disgusting person. What a fool. Just now, Bakugo didn't go to the meat warehouse like Kirishima, so he didn't know the way. For Kirishima's end, he was a little angry at his recklessness but also a little fortunate. Even only one was killed. Not particularly satisfied with his previous record, Rukang frowned. His quirk was the strongest when he first came into contact with the enemy. When the opponent did not know the characteristics of his quirk, he repeatedly defeated many people through sneak attacks. However, after the opponent is prepared, the meat warehouse wants to defeat villains so easily, it will not be so easy. After all, although his physical body can be separated, his movement speed is not fast. Slow can be avoided. Of course the meat storehouse also knew this shortcoming, so in the years of practice, he also explored a set of fighting methods that belonged to him alone. San. The two arms quickly dissolved and separated from the body, and they were divided into countless pieces. In a huddling manner, like a dense swarm of bees, they surrounded Bakugo and Kaminari standing in place. Since the speed is full, then the attack range can only be increased. However, Rukang usually has no unfavorable tactics, but at this time it is encountering an opponent. Armor-piercing machine gun. Bakugo uses his own Nirvana as a model, and has carried out new developments on top of it. A virtual grip was aimed at the meat bin, and then countless linear explosions came out of Bakugo's palms, and successive explosions sounded on the overpass, directly beating those small meatballs into minced meat. Unexpectedly, there are two more. I originally thought that Bakugo was just a half-hearted meat storehouse, but now he looked at him straight, and controlled the minced meat to fly back again, and his two arms grew again. What? Honorable, those amazing things can return to him. This is almost the same as Masada. Kaminari, who saw this scene, had a weird expression. When he was too elemental, his body was lava. Not only did he look not disgusting, but he was also a little handsome. But the meat warehouse is a bit disgusting. Imagine that people with dense phobias must be nauseous. This kind of battle feels so bad. He took out a disc-like thing from his pocket and inserted it into the device on his arm. Kaminari's expression was a little reluctant. What he wears on his arm is his new equipment, and he has 3 devices that can be launched and positioned. Within 10 meters, the current he releases will be limited to the straight line between him and the device. This device makes up for his single attack method, regardless of the characteristics of the enemy and the enemy. If this disc is hit on the meat warehouse, then the battle is over. Chapter 244 Spoiler. Wow, the 2 discs were launched from Kaminari's equipment in an instant, quickly approaching the meat warehouse. However, Rukang's reaction was not slow at all. Because of quirk, he was not good at close combat, so dodge must be his focus of practice. A dodge easily dodges the discs, and Kaminari's attack is directly empty. Although it is not clear what these discs are for, the cautious nature tells him that this will not be a good thing. Projectiles. Let's fix you first. The flesh was separated from the body in an instant, forming a big hand in midair. If Kaminari is pinched by this hand, then his fate may be worse than Kirishima. I'll take some effort to let you understand what kind of true taste corresponds to a school. Controlling this big hand, the meat storehouse seemed to be ready to kill with one blow. The huge attack range made Kaminari nowhere to hide. Ah, I don't want to become those meatballs on the ground. Kaminari looked at Bakugo in a panic, but Bakugo is now also entangled by a dense group of small meatballs. He can't get out of it at all, so he can only rely on him here. Although this discharge may accidentally hurt, but this time there is no way. The ground is conductive. Bakugo and Kirishima are both on the ground now, and the disc positioning just now has been hidden, so now Kaminari can only discharge the whole body, which includes his two teammates. But now there is no way. Although I don't know if this separated hand is afraid of electricity, I can only give it a try. The yellow electric light on his body has flickered, and Kaminari is ready to fight back. Huh, are you going to discharge it? The meat warehouse naturally knows Kaminari's quirk. Seeing Kaminari's actions, he knows what he is going to do next. Although his physical body feels the same as ordinary people even in the state of separation, but the meat warehouse is confident that he will deal with Kaminari before he is stunned. The electric light is getting brighter and the giant hand is getting closer and closer to Kaminari. When the two are about to collide, Xiao Bao Hao, in the sky, there was a sudden shout, accompanied by the sound of breaking through the air. When the three CDEI people in the fierce battle were interrupted so suddenly, they all stopped by coincidence and looked at the top of their heads in confusion. In midair, a man wearing a red suit and white cape was landing quickly. Seeing this familiar outfit, Bakugo and Kaminari's eyes widened immediately. Magma B*************** D. Masada. That's right, the person who fell from the sky was the Masada who killed more than 300 people just now. After killing the group of dragons, Masada continued to wander aimlessly in the venue to see if he could meet some unopened opponents to challenge him. But unfortunately, because of Muliang's announcement just now, everyone knows his record. Plus, as the first place in the sports festival, the examinees present have more or less studied him, and his appearance is even more impressive. Keep it in mind, so seeing Masada from a distance, these candidates quickly fled as if they had encountered a plague god. Even some of the teams that fought like fire in the last second, after being informed by the people who were out of the wind, that Masada was coming, they stopped the offensive as soon as possible, and fled together with good friends, changing the battlefield to continue the previous battle. As for why Jungtae was able to come to Bakugo, it was naturally that he heard the explosion just now. Although the number of people with explosive quirks is not too small, they are definitely not too many. Among those who know too much at present, Bakugo has this kind of ability. Perhaps Boom can also use flames to achieve similar effects, but the momentum it's far from being as vast as Bakugo. With a certain direction, Masada relied on her terrifying physical strength to jump all the way, or leap forward to this overpass, and happened to see the three in the fight. No way, Bakugo's hairstyle is so distinctive that Masada recognized it at a glance even in the air. The one wearing Shiji uniform seems to be villains, right? After adjusting his body shape, Masada's feet instantly activated the quirk, and a large amount of steam was ejected from the soles of his feet, adjusting his direction to the meat warehouse. Pia, quote, although it seems that a long time has passed, it only took about a second from Masada's appearance to his standing on the ground. In such a short period of time, plus the surprise in his heart, the meat warehouse did not have time to react. A neat hand knife hit the meat storehouse's neck directly, knocking him out directly. His physical strength is not strong. When encountering a strong player like Masada, he naturally has no resistance. Hey, what is your mess? He is my opponent. The sudden appearance of Masada killed the meat warehouse in an instant, making Bakugo annoyed. Doesn't this mean that he is inferior to Masada? Although this is already a fact. Haha, sorry, I just passed by. In fact, Masada's original intention was not to stun the meat warehouse directly. Originally, he was only going to install AB in front of the meat warehouse, and then watch the excitement on the side. After all, it was a bit immoral to freely intervene in other people's battles. But there's no way. The long battle has given him an instinct in his body. Seeing the meat warehouse, it doesn't look like a good person's face, so naturally, he slapped it on. Huh, it's really timely, Mrs. Ma. Unlike Bakugo's irritation, Kaminari took a long sigh. Someone came forward to help him solve the situation. He was naturally very happy. Even if his electric shock might be useful, the risk was too great. He didn't want to try to become that kind of meatball feeling. Yo, Kaminari, how is it? How is your first experience with the new trick? Seeing that the equipment in Kaminari's hand is still emitting white smoke, it should be a little overheated, Masada immediately thought of his long-hidden killer. As soon as he heard the words of Mr. Kaminari, Kaminari's expression was still happy and immediately became gloomy. Until now, his nirvana has not been released once. It's a shame. It looks like you must be able to pass the level without any problems, so I'll go one step ahead. There was no injury to the two of them. Although there seemed to be many strange balls on the ground, Masada didn't know that these things were originally human beings. In his eyes, these things were nothing but debris. After a squat, Masada jumped into the air again, and soon disappeared from the vision of the two. I'm really envious. Flying must be a very good thing, right? Looking in the direction where Jungta left, Kaminari was stunned. If Jungta heard this, he would definitely knock him on the head. Chapter 245 Through My Crisis. Although at the beginning, I was fascinated by flying Masada, the feeling of freedom is far from comparable to running on the ground. But after the first freshness passed, the next thing was all kinds of troubles. If you don't rely on elementalization, the thinness of oxygen, the strong sense of weightlessness that exists all the time, and the tearing of the skin when the speed is too fast, if there is no strong body, then this kind of unprotected flying is simply suffering. But Kaminari doesn't know this at all, he is now in new trouble. Finally changed back. As the meat warehouse fell into a coma, Kirishima, who had been kneaded into a meatball by him with a quirk, finally changed back to his original shape in a twist. He regained his freedom, and now his face is full of excitement. The 393 is really rubbish. It was easily knocked down by this kind of stuff. Bakugo's mouth is not virtuous, completely disregarding Kirishima's feelings, opening his mouth becomes ironic. Bakugo, aren't you entangled in the same way? Villains is not weak at all. Although it has become a meatball, Kirishima's senses are still there, so he also knows that Masada appeared and defeated the meat warehouse. Of course, Kirishima, who would not admit his love rival, did not say anything and directly challenged Bakugo. Seeing that the two were about to fight, Kaminari couldn't sit still at the side. There is no time to fight now. Let's look back first. You are not the only one who turned into a meatball by him. Hearing Kaminari's anxious yelling, the two of them also turned around and took a look. I saw that on the overpass, the meatballs that were all over the ground before have all become candidates. It looks like there are 20. These people in front of them obviously recognize the identities of Bakugo and the others, and they have already moved toward them. It looks like the other party is not going to talk to us well. The three of them immediately realized that it was not time to relax, and they were ready to fight as soon as their eyes dazzled. Aside from talking here, Masada is still continuing her wandering journey. Suddenly, a strong wind blew his face. It feels like artificial. It's kind of interesting. Anyone who has blown electric fans knows that there is a difference between natural wind and man-made wind. Natural wind is air flow formed by air pressure difference, while man-made wind is generated by positive and negative pressure. Since seeing and hearing the color awakening, Masada's senselessness has been greatly improved. The touch on his face and the instinct in his heart all told him that the wind did not occur naturally. Well, the above things are all made up by Jungtai. What really makes him sure is that there is a huge tornado in front of him. No matter how you look at this kind of place, it is impossible to produce a tornado out of thin air, right? So it must be some people's quirk. After walking a few steps forward, Masada realized that the man who was manipulating the tornado was in the eye of the wind. On a tall building, there is a person stepping on the edge of the building, holding his arm high, and this hurricane is constantly rotating around his palm, and there are countless small balls in it. Airflow and movement. This person is a bit familiar. It seems to be the hot-blooded idiot I saw before. Is it Yellen Inasa? That's right, the one standing on the top of the building at this time was Yellen Inasa, who had a relationship with Masada before, but he was now wearing a very flamboyant combat uniform, so Masada didn't recognize it before. I personally think that Hero S is blood. Everyone's fighting is very hot. I like hot things the most. Yellen Inasa spoke extremely passionate words, and the huge voice was clearly audible even if he was too far away from him. Below him, there are a large number of candidates. The terrain of this block is very complex and suitable for melee. So from the beginning, there have been a lot of people gathered here, and there are also people who are thinking about opportunistic tricks. But now, they are suffering, because the small balls in their hands were completely wiped away by this hurricane. Without these small balls, no matter how strong they are, there is nothing they can do. I'm here too. Suddenly, the sharp-eyed Masada saw an acquaintance in this crowd. It was his fanatical girl, Hamiko Toga. No way, in a group of weirdly shaped battle uniforms, the JK uniform that crossed me was too conspicuous. Although I just registered as a student of Shongying, perhaps it was to strengthen her identity of Hero S. This time, Mr. Aizawa also arranged for her to participate in the temporary license examination. Because the quirk is transformation, I have no requirements for the combat uniform. This time I took the exam and didn't even bring her blood collection device. At this moment, she was also very confused. I don't know why the small ball that she had grasped in her hand suddenly floated away, but she was just about to press it on a person. However, Yellen Inasa didn't know the following situation. He was now full of blood. I sincerely ask everyone to let me join in this fierce battle. After speaking his lines, Yellen Inasa leaned back sharply, and then dragged the cyclone's arm and pressed it down. Suddenly, countless small balls were accompanied by the hurricane and moved downwards. The crowd rushed over. Hey, if you get hit, you will definitely be eliminated. Just now there was a Shongying, now there is a Shiji, are all the candidates in this class of monsters. Run now, I don't want to be eliminated in the first level. Seeing this massive attack, the candidates below were panicked. The targets on their 4.8 bodies were all in a conspicuous position. No matter how much they dodge, they certainly can't be completely guarded. They are not a special case like Masada. Of course, Duo is also one of them. Although her melee combat skills and concealment methods are not bad, she is still powerless in the face of such a wide range of attacks. At this moment, she stared at the small ball storm above blankly, and didn't mean to dodge at all, as if she had given up struggling. Also, after all, her purpose in coming to Shongying was just to stay with Masada. As for this temporary license, I am afraid I am not interested in crossing it. So there is really no need to avoid it. What are you silly girl doing? However, some people think otherwise. Chapter 246 Meeting with Yaren Inasa. Seeing I stood there and suddenly stopped moving, Masato was not far away, and suddenly I was anxious, even if I resisted symbolically. What kind of trouble is this kind of completely giving up resistance? Naturally, I won't just watch as I get eliminated. Masato doesn't care if the target on her body fails due to the high temperature, and magma emerges directly from under her feet, corroding the shape of a footprint on the ground. Wow, just like a bullet shot out of the muzzle, Masato rushed out at a speed that was invisible to the naked eye. What? Why is there another wind? The examinees who passed by had no idea what was going on. They only felt that there was a flower in front of them, and then a heat wave blew past them. And unlike the previous hurricane, the hurricane only blew away the ball, but this heat wave directly overturned their people. Yellen Inasa, who was very sensitive to air currents, naturally discovered this sudden outsider, 23, but he didn't care. The world is so big, and various quirks are emerging in an endless stream, and for his own strength, Yellen Inasa is also extremely confident. Increased the use of quirk, the hurricane became more violent in an instant, and the speed of the ball flying faster and faster. However, it is the figure of Masato who was faster than the small ball. In less than a second, I ran from a block away to the Masato who crossed me in front of me. Looking at the small ball storm that was already in front of me, I quickly estimated the time and came to the conclusion that it was too late to take me. Run out of this huge attack range. Big Spitfire, since you can't run away, you can only block these balls. Quirk is getting stronger and stronger. Now there is no need to accumulate energy when using these moves. With a move of his mind, his left arm turns into a huge lava palm, completely covering him and Dummy's body underneath. As for the problem of high temperature and unpleasant smell, I can only feel wronged and ferry me. In an emergency, this is too much to think of the best way. But looking at me, it seemed that there was no trace of dissatisfaction at all. Instead, I saw the Empress Dowager who suddenly appeared, and an excited smile immediately appeared on the original dull face. It's too big. Seeing the Empress Masato who I like first, I don't care what form it is now, and directly rushed to Masato's body, which made Masato only raise her arm so as not to affect her by the magma. Well, this is so big that people like it. Masato is all red at this time, and there is crimson lava on his arms. It is the most delicious poison in my eyes. Even if the temperature of Masato's body is still very high, it is still tight, there is no meaning to let go. At this time, the small ball storm has also swept down, making black marks on the palm of the lava, but it can't break through this layer of defense at all. The magma used this time is not the extremely high temperature magma, so the color did not turn to gold like during the Battle of the Gods and Fields, but the red magma with a lower temperature. But on the other hand, although the explosive power is a little smaller, these magmas are almost solid, so it is best to use them for defense. Although these small balls have the blessing of the wind, they still want to break through the barriers of Masato. A lot, with the sound of crackling around, the raindrops of small balls hit these helpless candidates, and at the same time, the diddy alarm sound is endless, which is triggered by the target on their body. Sound. Oops, I just missed it. Stop talking, I have been eliminated. It's a coincidence, me too. Suddenly, the screams rang all over the clearing, even overshadowing the loud noise of the ball hitting the ground. For these people who have more than enough energy, Masato will not sympathize with them. Since they have chosen to stand on this stage, they must be prepared to be eliminated. With such a demanding pass rate in this exam, it can already be seen that the profession of hero S has begun to be screened to a higher level. The constant chattering sound in the ear makes Masato really a little irritable. Even if this exam fails, the next exam will be in a few months, right? As for crying like this, shut up. With a kick of his eyes, the overlord momentum filled the court again. These guys who were not determined at all, instantly became the same as the previous batch, their eyes paled and fainted. Of course, the crossing me who was throwing in Masato's arms was not affected. Masato can now use conquerors for specific groups of people, so it is natural to bypass her. At this time, the ball had all been hit, and the magma arm was thrown away, and the whole area suddenly fell into silence. Only the mess on the ground and the densely fainted crowd could show that a big battle had just happened here. Standing on the tall building, Yellen Inasa was still affected even though the distance was far away. His head was dizzy, but fortunately, his willpower was strong enough, so he just tranced for a while and stood firm. Did not let myself fall. The people below are the Shongying people I saw outside the venue before. Masato's unique Battle 393 suit made Yellen Inasa instantly recognize it. Hey, Shongying's classmate, are you okay? After a leap, Yellen Inasa jumped off the top of the building by the wind. Although his physique was huge, he didn't even make a sound after landing because of the quirk. Which one of your eyes saw that my condition was not good? Jung Tai looked at this hot-blooded bald idiot in front of him, and only felt that there were countless words to vomit, and his appearance alone was already ahead of the vast majority of killing Matt. You were the person you met at the door just now. I was so rude before, I haven't asked your name yet. Anyway, Yellen Inasa knew that he must have passed, so he was fortunate to have a chat with Masato. There are people who don't even know their name. Well, what other schools will focus on studying Shongying? Masato has always been a little stunned. Since he became famous, he can basically be recognized when he walks on the road. Shong Yellen Inasa is the first person to ask his name directly. But with the brain capacity of such a passionate idiot, I am afraid that I can't remember the name, right? Seeing as if he was about to come again with his unique bow, Jung pressed his shoulder too quickly. My name is Igarashi Masada, please advise. Chapter 247 The Battle of Class A. Let alone what happened after Junta and Yelena Inasa met, other battlefields were also fighting fiercely at this time. The team composed of several members of Class A led by Lugu was under attack from all sides at this time. Hey, it's finally time for Nirvana to be used. Mina uses acid liquid to slide continuously on the ground, and then uses high viscosity acid to cast high walls to form defenses, which are very similar to Masada's lava walls. Grape waved the two whips in his hand and glued all the small balls thrown by villains on them, directly causing them to lose their offensive means. Green Valley used his extremely fast speed to shuttle in all directions, and then used his shooting style to bounce the ball to resolve the crisis of the students. All of a sudden, the members of Class A turned out to have formed an indestructible defense. This is no longer the Class A in the sports meeting live broadcast, they have really improved a lot. Gentang Yao watched the outstanding performance of the people in Class A, and said with some surprise. Even those who are not ranked have become stronger, so how strong is the Igarashi Masada I just met now? Originally, he was going to meet Masada for a while, because he was also a leader in the Masterpiece Academy. He couldn't meet his opponent in the school, so he naturally wanted to compete with Shongying's number 1. But now he is a little guilty. When he was at the door before, he hadn't seen the depth of Masada, but the faintly revealed aura of the opponent still left a deep impression on him. Everyone stay away, their line of defense is very strong, I'm going to start getting stronger. Seeing that his partner couldn't break through Class A's defenses, Juntang couldn't sit still, screamed towards the surroundings, and bent down and put his hands on the ground. Seeing Juntang's shaking posture, his companion naturally understood that he was going to zoom in on the move, and quickly withdrew from the surrounding of Class A. Maximum power, shake the ground. I saw that the concrete floor in front of Juntang shook his body, all cracked and collapsed, and then the cracks quickly spread to the ground at the feet of Class A. In an instant, their foothold was destroyed. This is Juntang's quirk vibration, he can make the things he touches vibrate, but the aftershocks corresponding to the magnitude of the vibration and the speed of the reaction will backlash his body and make him incapacitated. In this way, he might be Masada's old enemy. In another world, two similar abilities have had a terrifying battle, but in this case, the battle situation must be one-sided. After all, Juntang's physique cannot be compared with Whitebeard, and it is the limit of his current ability to shatter the ground. Compared with the shaking that Whitebeard can cause a tsunami, it is simply a world of difference. This sudden blow caused Class A to be caught off guard and could no longer maintain its previous defensive formation like an iron wall. Moreover, under Juntang Yao's deliberate actions, the Class A classmates were separated, and they couldn't get together in a short time. Currently, 26 people have passed. Muliang's voice suddenly reached everyone's ears through the radio, making everyone who wanted to defeat Class A stunned. The game has now passed, and some people have passed it one after another, which makes some people feel even more anxious. There are only so many places that can pass, and every additional person passes, it means that their chances of passing are 1 point smaller. Zero, great opportunity. Looking at the villains who rushed over, he was stunned, and Lu Jiyu immediately yelled to Zero beside him. Because of Masada's previous suggestions, Green Valley and the others have studied a set of tactics before. The quirk of Zero and Grape can restrain villains very well. As long as someone goes out to attract firepower, they can hit villains by surprise. Hearing Lugu's shouting, Zero reacted quickly. He immediately used a few bandages and stuck them directly on the body of Grape not far away, binding his body tightly. Hey, give me some reaction time. Although I knew this would happen for a long time, the Grapes were still taken aback, but they immediately took off the spheres above their heads and held them in their hands, turning them into whips. Haha, then I'm sorry. Sorry was said in his mouth, but Zero's expression was very happy. On weekdays, he was able to trick Grapes like this but not many times. Seeing his arms exerted force, Grape followed his bandage and flew out, quickly approaching the circle of villains surrounding them, and then Grape used the sticky whip in his hand. I connected them one by one, and when the villains reflected it, it was too late. No matter how hard they struggled, the purple whip on their bodies couldn't be shaken off. Instead, they were tied tighter and tighter, and they were directly tied together, and they couldn't even move. Because it was the first time to cooperate in this way, the movements of the two were a little rusty at first, but in the end, they became more and more proficient. It's just like the original Midnight Teacher. Except for this battlefield, the other students in Class A are also doing very well. Tokiyami used the possession of the Black Shadow to directly rush to the crowd to kill the quartet, and Ojiro used his novel fighting skills to make his opponents unable to resist. Ida and Aoyama attacked and defended together, and they also easily resisted the attack of villains. And there is a battle situation, which is also a completely one-sided existence. Cha-Cha, where is the next target? Yaoyorozu Baihei Cha-Cha has now eliminated one person each, that is to say, as long as they eliminate one more person each, they can pass the barrier directly. But after the previous changes, the current test takers see Shongying students' good promise. The first reaction is not to attack, but to escape. Even if it is exposed, it is still not an opponent they can match. So the two of them are now using Cha-Cha's characteristic of being able to detect at high altitudes, searching for villains everywhere. Looking around in the air, Cha-Cha released her quirk and returned to the ground. In a block about 50 meters ahead, there are about 10 people fighting. Let's go there. Good. For his current strength, Yaoyorozu is extremely confident. Originally thought that the students outside and the classmates in the class are basically the same strength, so at the beginning they were a little intimidating, but after defeating a group of people, the discovery is simply effortless. And this is the result of her mercy, otherwise those classmates might not be as simple as fainting. Chapter 248 Yelan Inasa's thoughts. The battle ended very quickly. After Yaoyorozu and Cha-Cha intervened in the battle, these dozen people were totally helpless to fight back. All kinds of grenades were made in advance by Yaoyorozu as if they were free of money, and Cha-Cha took these grenades and flew into the air with her new equipment and directly carried out a wave of bombing attacks. Although this world quirk has become the mainstream, not all quirks can resist thermal weapons, or in other words, there are not many quirks that can ignore the attacks of thermal weapons. Therefore, after this sudden airdrop, there are very few people below who still have the strength to fight, and they are directly solved by Cha-Cha's super mobile ability. There are currently 56 people who have passed. The exam is halfway through, so let's keep going. After the ball hit the last target of the person who fell on the ground, the 3 targets on the 2 people lit up at the same time, and there was a voice reminder inside, asking them to go to the lounge immediately. This device can identify the wearer in the ball, and infer from the distance and movement who was hit by the wearer, and by whom. The technology content is so high that Yaoyorozu can't help but research. Take a look at the thoughts of this device. But now obviously there was no chance, and the device kept urging, so the 2 went straight back to the lounge. Ha ha ha, 393 you are also a person who believes in muscles, that's great. Yes, I am very longing for the punch to the flesh fight, that is super passionate. If my quirk is to enhance the body, it would be great. As soon as he entered the door, Yaoyorozu Baihei Cha-Cha saw a strange conversation before him. I saw Junta and Yelan Inasa, one of them stretched out an arm and made a punching posture. This weird movement made everyone around them confused. This is the posture that passionate people would have. However, Yelan Inasa obviously didn't care about the opinions of the people around him. Instead, he explained to them loudly. This cheeky energy is a bit too much even for a positive wife. This is no longer a hot-blooded problem. This is hot-blooded plus secondary too. The contact between the 2 caused a chemical reaction, and the cheeky level was directly raised to max. When did your relationship get so good? Yaoyorozu looked at the 2 of them as good brothers, and walked over and asked with a look of curiosity. Although Yelan Inasa's costume was a bit flamboyant, she still recognized it. Speaking of this, I have to talk about what happened in the venue just now. Hello, Masada. After Masada introduced himself, Yelan Inasa called out his name very familiarly. It is very impolite to put this in a stranger. Only after 2 people know each other well, will they usually call each other by name. However, Masada didn't pay attention to this aspect. Up to now, his name from Midori Valley and Bakugo is also the last name instead of the first name, and he always has more tolerance for hot-blooded idiots. You almost eliminated my companion just now. Come and say hello to me now. Should you say that you are big-hearted or that you are confident in your own strength? Although I knew that the other party was definitely not intentional, I was indeed almost eliminated just now, so Masada's tone would naturally not be particularly good, and he just said a word. However, in the face of Masada's provocative words, Yelan Inasa was not angry, but excitedly said, your performance at the sports festival is really too passionate. I now regret not going to Shongying. NS. After listening to Yelan Inasa's words, Masada also remembered what Aizawa-sensei said. Yelan Inasa was the #1 exemption score at the time. How do you quit school and then dropped out? He looked forward to Shongying's look. Originally he was straight-tempered, so Masada asked directly, then why did you drop out of school at the time? It's impossible to look down on your strength Shongying. Facing the problem of Masada, Yelan Inasa's expression changed a little, and he wanted to have something unspeakable. If you don't want to say it, I won't persecute you. Seeing the performance of the other party, Masada is curious, but he is not a person who has the roots of inquiries. He is also preparing to take it for a while, and then takes me to pass the exam. For example, CDEI is eliminated because of being too mad. Then I have no face to meet people. It's actually nothing. Endeavor, do you know? Is his son in your class? After struggling for a while, Yelan Inasa still told the truth. After all, this was not a big deal, it was just a nod of his heart. Ah, you say Boom, right. That's right, others are very good, what's the matter? I heard that the reason why Yelan Inasa dropped out of school was related to Boom. Jung was too enthusiastic. Boom seemed to have no impression of him at all. If he knew about this, his face would definitely look good, right? Hero S is passionate to me. It is to convey hope and emotion with a passionate heart to others. But from Endeavor's eyes, only cold anger is conveyed. The secret that had been kept in my heart was finally vented, and Yelan Inasa became more and more excited at this time. And during the entrance exam, the blasting eyes were exactly the same as Endeavor. I won't recognize them as the Hero S father and son, so I can't stay even if it is Shongying. Seeing Yelan Inazuo panting slightly after speaking, she pinched her brows too much. It seems that Endeavor was really very low in popularity in the past, that is, after the sports festival, the temper has improved. Junta couldn't say anything about Yelan Inasa's experience. After all, Endeavor was such a person. Before the sports festival, he was full of thoughts about surpassing All Might, and he definitely didn't have the mind to care about a passerby. As for Boom, Masada can only say that it is unfortunate. Although Boom has always been cold on the surface, his eyes will not be that hot, but as long as you know him more, you can know that Boom is actually a stranger. People who are cold and hot inside. This coincides with his quirk, which is an ice and a fire. Anyway, I feel that Hong is a very good person, and he is very trustworthy as a friend. But Yelin Inasa only had a face-to-face meeting with him. Naturally, it was impossible to have a deep friendship. Coupled with the first impression of endeavor, he would definitely feel that the characters of the father and son are the same, so misunderstandings occurred. Well, what should I say? If this misunderstanding can help resolve the bombardment, Masato would definitely be willing, because the two are also very good friends, but for a while, Masato was a bit difficult to organize the language, so he immediately froze. Forget it, go to the lounge and let me talk to you slowly. Wait for me, it's not a matter to waste time here, and now that the number of people passing by is increasing, Masato directly pulled me through, ran to the people on the ground who passed out and passed the assessment easily, and then went with Yi Lan. Inasa returned to the lounge together. After that, there was the scene that Yaoyorozu and the others just saw. Chapter 249 all pass. After listening to Masato's explanation, although Yelin Inasa still seems to have no change in his view of Hong, he still has a sense of identification with Masato, a straightforward temperament. Therefore, he chatted with Masato all at once, and finally realized that Masato was also a tough guy, so he had to worship him. So, that's it. Now a few people are sitting in their seats and eating some snacks, because passing the first exam will inevitably be a bit of consumption, so Muliang is also very considerate to prepare food and drinks in the lounge, so that the candidates have plenty of energy. Energy to face the next exam. Just as a few people were chatting and waiting for the end of the first round of assessment, the door of the lounge suddenly opened, and then one person walked in from outside. Yo, Boom, you are here. Seeing the central character of his conversation just now appeared, Masato immediately waved to him excitedly and motioned for him to come to himself here. At this time, Boom hadn't recognized Yelin Inasa, so he saw the Jungma's greeting and walked straight over. This behavior changed Yelin Inasa's expression. Who is this? When he came to the seat next to Masato, he saw that besides the classmates in his class, there was a stranger, and he asked curiously. Seeing Bang Yi's expression that didn't seem to be fake, Jung was a bit speechless. If it takes too long for the entrance exam to make you forget him, it's okay to say, but you obviously saw him outside the venue just now. With the distinctive personal characteristics of Yelin Inasa, it would be difficult to completely forget it after seeing it once. Yelin Inasa's face was also stiff. He noticed the Boom when he was outside, but he thought that Boom was still the same as during the entrance exam, and he didn't have to look at him directly. Now it looks like he is himself. Got it wrong. Seeing that both of them fell silent suddenly, Masato could only helplessly introduce them. Well, this is Yelin Inasa. His quirk can control the wind, and you should have seen it during the entrance exam. Have you ever remembered? After hearing Masato's words, Boom seemed to recall something. He seemed to have only seen Quirk, who was able to manipulate the wind once. I didn't recognize you just now, sorry. After half a year of getting along with classmates, Boom's current personality has changed a lot. In the face of the sudden apology, Yelin Inasa was a little at a loss. At this time, he also understood that he had misunderstood the explosion, and got up from his seat in a hurry, and then took a deep breath. Bend over, it's me who should say sorry. He didn't know what he had done, and he was so confused that he could apologize like this. He could only look at the Masato, who had been trying hard to squeeze his smile. It seemed that he must know everything here. Ha ha ha, you two are really funny. It's just a pair of CPs. After laughing for a while, Masato finally stopped, and then repeated what had happened before. After listening to Masato's words, Boom fell silent. There was also a mistake in it. When he first entered school, he really closed his heart, but he slowly unlocked it later. After that, a lot of things happened. Now he can face his past and identity and continue to move forward. The conflict between the two also disappeared with a handshake, and at this time, the first exam gradually came to an end. Putting away a serious face in the arena, and swaying the insidious and cunning show, led the classmates of Juwu Academy to pass the level easily. Bakugo and Green Valley also passed the level one after another, and they are still in the arena. Class A, only Iida and Aoyama are left. I said you guys are too fast. Kaminari walked in front of Kirishima and Bakugo, and walked towards Masato and the others. This side has become the gathering place of Class A, and everyone is waiting anxiously for those who have not arrived. Why do you guys make it so late? It should be early. Seeing that the three of them came here just now, Masato asked with some curiosity that he still recognized the combat effectiveness of these three people, and Bakugo alone can deal with one ticket. You were so embarrassed to say. Just when you walked on your front foot, there were more than a dozen villains surrounded us. Seeing Masato eating the chocolate Yaoyorozu gave him comfortably, the resentment in Kaminari's heart exploded in an instant. Just when he was desperately working, others were already flirting happily in the lounge. Haha, then you are really good. Masato also felt that her current situation was very hateful, so she did not ask why so many people suddenly appeared. Anyway, it has been passed, that is a good thing. With Iida, it should be fine, right? After waiting for a long time without seeing the arrival of his good friends, Green Valley is a little worried. According to the announcement of the broadcaster, 92 people have passed, which means that there are 8 places left. For flowers, at this time, Iida and Aoyama did encounter some difficulties. The two of them happened to meet each other by chance. After being separated by the sudden earthquake, their partner disappeared, so they were lucky enough to act together. However, because Aoyama's quirk is so conspicuous, there are more and more villains besieging them. Everyone wants to pick Shongying, a batch of first-year soft persimmons, so that they have no chance to eliminate others. It seems that the two of us can't survive this chaos, Iida-san. Aoyama, who was not particularly outstanding in strength, was already a little different at this time. 2 targets on his body had already lit up, which meant that if he was hit again, he would be eliminated. Being able to persist until now has not been eliminated, it can be said that it is entirely Iida's credit. Iida has been covering him by relying on his mobility, but he also lost the opportunity to attack. Seeing the figure of Iida who has been struggling in the crowd, Aoyama was a little uncomfortable, tangled for a while, and said to Iida. Iida-san, I want to give you the place. What are you stupid suddenly? Iida is inexplicable about Aoyama's sudden sensationalism, and obviously there is still a chance now. If you protect me, we will go to Wonquan together, but if you act alone, you will definitely be able to get the pass. As if he had given up struggling, Aoyama's original dodge movements slowed down a bit. Shut up, I won't give up my classmates. However, Iida disagrees with his spirit, and he backs Aoyama on his back. Find the right opportunity to use your quirk. At the last moment, Iida is also ready to fight, and a person on his back will greatly reduce his speed, but if he uses Nirvana, then it is not a problem. After Aoyama heard Iida's words, he subconsciously ejected a laser. At the same time, Iida also took his own steps. For a while, the two of them swiftly shuttled through the crowd like a laser, directly turning the person who couldn't respond. Villains is a pity. When their silhouettes stopped and the remaining villains were about to encircle again, they found that Iida and Aoyama had eliminated enough villains in the time just now. So far, Shongying first grade a class, the whole hospital passed. Chapter 250 Rescue Assessment. 100 places are full. The exam is over. As Iida and Aoyama came to the lounge, Muliang's voice also rang from the broadcast, and the first round of the provisional license examination came to an end, and the second examination was followed by the so-called final examination. Mustang Sr. was eliminated. Yellen Inasa, who returned to Shiji Academy, found that there was no meat warehouse spirit he respected on weekdays. Was eliminated. It's not that the theater guy has to rush to act on his own. He must have met Igarashi Masada. You must pay attention to Yellen, don't be like him. A student with extremely thick hair and covering his face was obviously dissatisfied with Rukang's actions and directly reprimanded him. In his opinion, if the Master Academy had not passed all of them, he had fallen into Shongying. Then the candidates who got the quota, now please watch the 393 big screen. After a rest for more than half an hour, Muliang's voice sounded from the lounge again. Then, the screen in the lounge suddenly lit up, showing the picture of the exam venue just now, and everyone was serious. I watched the scene inside. Is it going to continue the melee? The scene on the screen hasn't changed much from before, so Kirishima guessed with some confusion. Boom. Quote. However, the Hero S Public Security Committee will naturally not set such simple rules. If there are 2 rounds of melee, then the second round of examinations will be meaningless. Everyone who looked at the screen was stunned for an instant, and thick doubts came from the bottom of their hearts. I saw that the original examination site suddenly heard a series of explosions, hills, tall buildings, and buildings collapsed in the explosion. The originally spectacular examination site was turned into rubble in an instant. It's amazing. The scene in front of him was also shocked. The production costs of these venues are not cheap. Because of confidentiality, everything here is completed in a very short time, so the cost is even greater. Moreover, the urban area here is not just an empty shell, but also includes furniture, desks, and living areas. It is built completely in accordance with the real city. Needless to say, the manpower and material resources are consumed. Even if the current society has a lot of quirks that are easy to build, it shouldn't be like this. Speaking of it seems that all assessments are expensive. I can't help but think of the huge robots that appeared during the entrance examination and the sports festival. Listening to Yaoyorozu, such a huge robot costs 100 million yuan. Is the price inflated, or is the government funding for Hero S activities really huge? Just when everyone wondered why they wanted to destroy this exam area, Muliang answered them. Next is the final round of exams. As bystander, you will conduct a rescue exercise in this area. Bystander, quote, Kaminari, the scumbag, made a puzzled voice, and didn't understand what Muliang was talking about. The people who happened to be on the scene can also represent ordinary citizens. Yaoyorozu saw that Masada seemed to be at a loss as well. He reluctantly explained that these things are actually in the usual basic courses, the teacher has said, but it seems that they have not listened carefully. Is it the same as what was done in USJ? It's just a bigger scale. Yaoyorozu by thought of the knowledge that teacher number 13 gave them in USJ. Although he was attacked by the League of Villains when he took the disaster relief class for the first time, this does not mean that the course will not be taken. On the contrary, Hero S the credits of disaster relief courses are very high, so Class A has also taken this course many times. Next, you will no longer be ordinary citizens, but Hero S who have obtained temporary licenses. We will conduct a detailed inspection of the rescue operations implemented after you entered the disaster area. As Muliang continued to explain, the lens gradually enlarged, and finally gave a close-up of the ruins. Someone is acting in the disaster area. No, maybe it's dangerous. The classmates who saw this close-up made their voices, and saw a lot of civilians shuttle back and forth in the ruins, and there were mostly old people and children inside, and the clothes on their bodies were also tattered, and there were even blood stains in some places. These people have experienced various professional trainings, and they are the hottest professionals waiting for disaster relief. It has to be said that with the rise of heroes, various occupations that have never been imagined before have also emerged. These help U.S. company, abbreviated as HUC, is one of them, and they are already with the development of specialization. The threshold is set quite high, and the income is not cheap. Now they are the victims of the disaster are in place everywhere in the examination room. Next, you will go to rescue them, and we will rate the rescue actions you have implemented. At the end of the exercise, candidates who score above the score line will be deemed to have passed. The second round of exams will start in 10 minutes. Candidates are invited to be in position. After saying this last sentence, Muliang cut off the broadcast, and the next time was left for the candidates to go to the bathroom and think about what to do. It's really hard to save people. Masada's brows have been twisted together now, and this second round of exams really hit him. If it is a fight, he must be rushing harder than anyone else. With his extremely lethal quirk, it is like a fish in the water, even AFO was beaten by him. But if you save someone, his quirk will be completely abolished. Is it possible to use magma to melt the collapsed building? Don't be silly, it will only cause more serious secondary damage. In addition, when he is in class, he is not very interested in this aspect. Basically, he listens to the lectures and then makes surprises during the test. As a result, he only understands the knowledge of the rescue, perhaps in ordinary people. I am already professional in my eyes, but I definitely can't fool this group of HUC. In other words, after not seeing the Battle of the Gods, did Masada not participate in the rescue work? He really has no talent in this aspect. You can only bite the bullet. As long as you clean up enough ruins, you should be able to pass it. This kind of physical work is really good at this kind of physical work. What he lacks most is strength. Why are there still children in it? Could it be said that at such a young age, they can already make 4.8 money to support their family? Suddenly, Kaminari roared loudly as if he had discovered a new world. Yes, children are too dangerous in this environment. After hearing Kaminari's words, Kirishima also reacted with shock on his face. After hearing the words of these two fools, Masada had nothing to say. Don't they know that there is a witchcraft called makeup? As long as your body is thinner, and you can easily deceive you two fools with sorcery. If you walk on the street, your wallet will definitely be emptied by the beggar. Moreover, as I said before, the most indispensable thing in this world is the weird-shaped quirk. It is not too unusual to have a quirk that can shrink the body. Ah, by the way, I would like classmate Igarashi to come backstage. Suddenly, the radio was turned on suddenly, and then Muliang's voice came out again. Chapter 251 Masada's Mission. Look for me, the assessment is about to begin. Why don't you say anything afterwards? Although she was confused in her heart, Jungtai also knew the priorities. Calling herself at this time must be an emergency, so she said hello to the classmates and walked towards the high platform outside the venue alone. Oh, it's finally here, but it really made me wait for a while. Pushing the door and entering, Masada saw Mu Liang sitting at a table, the *********** G on the notebook in front of him, and beside him, there was a tall man standing, ranking number 1 today. 10 powerful hero S killer whale. What do you mean by making you wait? It only took a minute from the time you notified me to come here. Obviously you might have forgotten to call me. She frantically complained in her heart with an expressionless Muliang. Masada spoke very politely. Excuse me, what can I do? You don't need to take this second round of exam Igarashi. What? Muliang's words 23 made Masada's eyes widen directly. His face was full of disbelief. Why didn't he let him take the exam? Did he do too much in the first exam? Hero S, the committee shouldn't be so petty. Classmate Igarashi, we have seen your performance in the Battle of the Gods and Fields. In terms of combat effectiveness, I am afraid that you can already compare All Might after being injured, right? Seeing Masada's expression, Muliang didn't say anything. After all, this was also a temporary notification from above. When he first learned about it, he was shocked. Should it be about the same? If you only talk about combat ability, Masada's words are actually already modest. To be honest, if he is allowed to face All Might, he has a certainty of victory. Elementalization's restraint on All Might has already made him invincible, and now the problem of physical strength has also been resolved. It can be said that Masada is now a walking natural disaster. However, what he said sounded like a confident expression to Muliang. Seeing that Masada was so confident, his tone became a lot easier. But why don't you let me participate in the assessment? I also feel like holding a temporary license. John Muliang's topic still didn't return to the aspect he wanted to hear, so Jung couldn't help asking. Haha, temporary licenses are all minor issues, don't worry, you will be given it if you don't participate in the assessment. After hearing Masada's words, he looked good as if he had heard a joke. While smiling, he said, if even a talent like you can't get this license, then our Hero S committee is too incompetent. For a long time, All Might has monopolized the entire head in absolute strength, and the gap between number 2 Hero S and him is also very huge, and Hero S with such a charisma can be said to be a once-in-a-century encounter. Even once in 1,000 years. But now that All Might has retired, Facing extremely powerful malice, what is scarce in Hero S is not the rescue talent, but the combat power that can crush the opposite person. At this time, Masada appeared like a shooting star in the dark, and although Muliang had heard that he was not symbol of peace, as long as Masada's strength was sufficient to suppress this era, and belonged to Hero S Fang, in the eyes of malicious intent, he is a symbol of peace. So the same sentence is that the strong always have privileges. This sentence is also applicable even in a society under the rule of law. As for the purpose of not allowing you to participate in the assessment, it is because you have been given other tasks. After resuming the pre-abandoned appearance, Muliang motioned to the killer whale and said slowly, I believe you are not unfamiliar, wait a while, you will be the villain with the tyrannical killer whale and attack the candidates. After understanding the situation, Masada felt relieved. If he really wanted him to serve the disaster victims, he would feel uncomfortable. Hello, Igarashi classmate. With a friendly nod towards Masada, the tyrannical killer whale continued with his good-looking words. In order to protect the people, Hero S must have a strong comprehensive ability to act. Relieving the victims is only one aspect, and facing the villains, it is also Hero S's responsibility. When the exam is halfway through, we will go to the venue to obstruct the candidates and then deduct points based on their performance. That's so easy. At this time, Masada also guessed why he was not allowed to take the exam. Just kidding, the tyrannical killer whale is not his opponent. When he appears on the stage, he will be knocked out by a punch, so whether it is him or the Hero S committee, I can't live without face. It is not the same to let Masada participate in the role of the villain. This is not only a gesture of goodwill, but also resolves the embarrassment that may occur. I have to say that the methods are extremely clever. Anyway, as long as Hero S who has been in contact with Masada, he is unanimously praised. The provisional license is obviously a piece of cake for him. That's what Muliang thinks. So much advice, Mr. Killer Whale. Looking at the smile on the other person's face, to be honest, I would rather he not smile. Putting this smile on his face should be able to be selected into the top 10 of that scene that scares children to cry. Oh, by the way, when you are the villain, don't use your magma quirk, that's too much damage. Muliang, who was already going to fall asleep, suddenly became clever and almost forgot important things, promptly reminding Masada. Of course Masada has no objection to this. If you use quirk at will, everyone present will not be enough to fight by yourself. 393. And the magic you used in the first test can't be used either. Magic, it's the one who suddenly stunned a large number of people. Oh, Conqueror's Hockey, right. I understand, you can't give too much effort. You can grasp this for yourself, but I heard that your strength is so scary. No problem, I will release the water. Also, after a while, you have to bring a special restraint protective gear for action, otherwise it would be too bullying. Clear. And also, after a series of unequal treaties, Masada's strength has been limited to the level of ordinary Hero S. While lamenting that he is really a giant, he also has a new understanding of Muliang. The original persona was a high, cold and decadent man, how come you have become an image of an old mother? This is so inconsistent with your identity. Villains launched a large-scale terrorist attack. Oo City has been reduced to rubble, and the number of casualties is staggering. The road is severely damaged, and the First Aid Advance Team cannot arrive quickly. Before they arrive, please take charge of the Rescue and Disaster Relief Command by the Hero S present. Oh, it's finally started. The broadcast suddenly sounded throughout the venue, and the second round of examinations began. Chapter 252. There was a loud noise in the sky, and Lao Su made a gorgeous appearance. From the perspective of Masada, you can easily capture the situation in the entire venue. It was the same development as the first round of exams. Gang-O was still a lounge room, the ceiling and surrounding walls collapsed one after another, and the disaster relief scene outside appeared directly in front of everyone. 100 of them, no, now only 99 candidates came out, and many of them were too familiar, like Yellen and Asa, who rushed to the forefront, covered in hurricanes visible to the naked eye. Blowing away a lot of rubble, a piece of ground was emptied, and the victims who were crushed underneath were also rescued in an instant. Points deducted. However, these victims obviously won't be merciful just because he looks a little handsome. Although Yellen Inasa has used countless air currents to move them separately according to the shape of the rubble in the human body, as far as the use of quirk is concerned, it is already unbelievable. Before determining whether the surroundings are safe and how the victims are injured, you must not move the rubble and the victims casually. Otherwise it will only worsen the situation. HUC didn't deduct points randomly, but they had their reasons. Listening carefully did make sense, so Yellen Inasa was convinced. Other students also encountered various troubles. After all, so far, they have carried out more theory and training, and like today, it is the first time that there are real disaster victims in need of rescue. So it's inevitable to be a little frantic. Lu Ji-yu was slapped and scolded by an old man he rescued, on the grounds that his words of concern were too single. The better performance in Class A is Yaoyorozu Baihei Cha-Cha. Yaoyorozu Bai is because of the extremely solid theoretical knowledge. After experiencing the initial panic, he quickly combined the knowledge in the book into the actual operation. The unanimous approval of the recipients. And Cha-Cha, it's all because of the convenience of quirk. Cha-Cha's original goal is to become such a disaster relief hero, so we pay special attention to this aspect on weekdays. Using her quirk, with extremely high mobility in the venue, her performance made Masada also shine. As the rescue progressed, the local barriers between schools were gradually broken. With the cooperation of so many people, more and more victims were rescued, which made the students relieved. It seems that the second round of exams will be a lot easier. Once another victim was sent to a safe place, Kirishima wiped the sweat from his forehead and said with some relief, looking at the rescue area in front of him. Yes, I just don't know where Jungtai is. I don't seem to see anyone else. There were Kaminari and Bakugo who acted with him. I don't know why, the three of them formed a small team. No, it would be easier if Junta was there. After all, he is super strong. What does that Magma B************ D do? Even if you don't pass him, you can pass. Seeing that the two of them didn't seem to have met Masada, Kirishima was a little puzzled. Could it be that the other party has been acting alone, so that he did not find him? At this time, the protagonist of their topic had already put on a black robe and a headgear, standing on the periphery of the disaster relief venue. How is the situation? The Masada, who had been blinded to herself strictly, asked the killer whale next to her. In the beginning, many people did not perform very well, but even so, the deduction judgments given by the members of HUC are much less than expected. On the whole, it is already good. The killer whale and Muliang have been on the phone. Hearing the question of Masada, he glanced at the data on his wrist and said to Masada, "It seems that you are very good this year." "Ah, yes, my classmates are not that weak, Mr. Killer Whale, you have to be careful when you come." After getting a satisfactory answer, Jung took the opportunity to make fun of the killer whale, but this was just a joke in the eyes of the other party. No matter how the killer whale is ranked 10th, Hero S is not the opponent of the freak Masada. He has nothing to say, but if you can't deal with the other students, you will be a little bit unreasonable. So, now is the time for our debut, right? Go in directly from here. Pointing to the smooth wall in front of him, Jung moved his body too much, just blow this up. Yes, wait a while, the explosives will be brought over immediately. I thought Masada couldn't wait. A trace of embarrassment appeared on the murderous whale's fierce face, and he quickly explained. Smash, quote. But before he could finish speaking, he was interrupted by a loud roar from the wife. Boom. While everyone was still focusing on the rescue, a deafening noise suddenly remembered, and then I saw the wall on the side of the disaster relief venue, which suddenly collapsed into fragments. Suddenly, smoke and dust were everywhere, and the earth trembled. I wanted to try it like this a long time ago, it's really cool. Rubbing his wrists, Masada said with a comfortable expression that he hadn't fought with physical strength alone for a long time, because the villains he faced had been divided into two levels. A villain that is too weak can be stunned by a single look, while a villain that is powerful is not an opponent by physical strength alone. In terms of physical strength, Masada is still inferior to All Might. His strongest place is still on the Magma. Of course, this is also compared with All Might. If it is compared with other Hero S which is stronger and weaker. It's hard to say. The killer whale next to him looked at the big hole that suddenly appeared in the thick wall. This is still without using the quirk and wearing restrained protective gear. The killer whale's current heart, Honuo Zhao, is extremely grateful. Sure enough, it is a wise and extremely wise thing to let this kid withdraw from the exam, or else I am afraid that I will make a fool of myself on the spot. What happened, Zhu? Among the candidates in the venue, Lubu was the first to react and looked nervously at the place where the huge movement was made. From just now, he faintly felt that this venue was arranged according to the situation of the Battle of the Gods, then the one that suddenly appeared on the scene must be one. Villains. Sure enough, after the smoke dissipated, several figures appeared in front of these, temporary Hero S in the arena. Killer whale, quote. The classmates present all screamed in surprise. The reputation of the tyrannical killer whale is very great, not only because of his strength itself, but also because he is also a Hero S who looks super like villains. Ranking no. 3. God knows why there are so many weird leaderboards. Chapter 253 The Villain Boss. Time goes back a few minutes ago. I didn't expect to perform much better than I thought. In the stands, Mr. Aizawa was looking at the meeting hall with a surprised look, and the class of students were systematically assisting. Under Yaoyorozu's command, the rescue efficiency is very high. Even students from other schools are very convinced of her command. For a while, these candidates are operating like a huge machine, and they continue to the victims were sent to a safe place. What's wrong? Except that girl, other people can only be regarded as quite satisfactory, right? Ms. Joke asked with Erlang's legs upright. In her opinion, the performance of her classmates was better, so she was a little confused about what Aizawa-sensei said. After all, they are only in the first grade. Faced with this kind of rescue work, it is beyond my expectation that this situation can be achieved. Mr. Aizawa praised everyone once very rarely. Although there is only a short year difference between the first and second grades, in this year, it is enough for a chick to spread its wings, and in front of Class A although his classmates didn't count as great overall, they didn't make a big mistake, so he was still satisfied. Speaking of which, what about Masada Igarashi in your class? I haven't seen him since just now. 397 inches. Nodding thoughtfully, the performance of the Shongying people in the first round made Ms. Joke almost forget that they were in the first grade, but soon she discovered another problem, that is, Jung is too missing. After listening to M. Joke, Mr. Aizawa also discovered this problem. Because Masada's previous performance was too good, he thought it was more than enough for Masada to pass this exam, so he didn't pay too much attention to him, but instead focused on other classmates. But after such a reminder, Aizawa-sensei also discovered that Masada seemed to have disappeared out of thin air. He was in the stands now, and almost all his classmates could be seen at a glance, but no matter how carefully he searched, he still didn't see the figure. What is this kid doing? Mr. Aizawa couldn't help but feel a headache, squeezed his brows, and then heard a loud noise. In the smoke and dust, dozens of people wearing special combat uniforms walked in from the big hole, and then two people with different costumes came out of the crowd. Abusive killer whale, isn't it? Seeing one of the burly CDEI figures clearly, Mr. Aizawa's brows frowned. He did not expect the provisional license examination to achieve this level. Villains has launched an attack. Please, all temporary heroes on the scene, while suppressing villains, continue to rescue the victims. Muliong's words are undoubtedly the devil's whispers in the ears of the examinees. I originally thought that I could easily pass the examination like this, but I didn't expect that the difficulties were behind. The difficulty is too high, right? Are you serious? What is this guy with a balaclava next to? Amidst the lamenting words, an untimely voice came, and the candidates also noticed another man next to the tyrannical killer whale. This man is naturally righteous. At this time, he has changed his combat uniform, wrapped his body in a black robe, and has a funny headgear on his face, showing only his two eyes and nose. Outside, this weird dress made him out of place in the villain. Of course, the examinee here did not recognize the identity of Masada, but thought he was another professional hero. How can this person look so familiar? Aizawa-sensei and Yaoyorozu made such a sound at the same time. Although Jung has wrapped themselves up very tightly, after so long in contact, some clues can also be seen from the body shape. Probably not. If it is true, then the Hero-S committee is too messy. Mr. Aizawa would still be unacceptable for such a thing for a while, so he was prepared to continue watching with a dubious mentality. However, the more Yaoyorozu looked at it, the more he felt that his guess was correct. He kept looking at Masada with his beautiful eyes, full of skepticism. Masada also felt this gaze, and couldn't help but become embarrassed, scratching her head, and thinking silently in her heart. I'm all dressed up like this, I shouldn't be recognized by 100, right? However, this subconscious move by Masaru made Yaoyorozu directly affirmed. People will always have some habitual small movements inadvertently. Like Masada, they will always scratch their head involuntarily when they are embarrassed. This point was caught by Yaoyorozu very keenly. Before the cooperation, Masada suddenly left. Go, the figure that matches exactly, immediately confirmed his identity. But she wouldn't be so stupid to say it here. Since Masada appeared here in this capacity, it must have been arranged above, as long as she worked hard to qualify. So, can you stop me, Hero-S? Lowering his voice, Masada lifted his black robe, straightened his body and put his hands behind him, and spoke to the nervous-looking examinee in front of him in a masterful manner. In the voice, he also deliberately brought a trace of aura, which made the candidates' hearts instantly stunned. This guy with a headgear is not easy to deal with. This idea came to everyone's heart, and they all assumed a fighting posture to face Masada. For a time, the limelight of the killer whale was completely snatched by Masada. Following Masada's words, he and the younger brother behind the killer whale also yelled, and directly launched a charge at the candidates. With so many younger brothers, can't let Masada rush up like this. The boss has to be like the boss. Because the place where Masada and them appeared is next to the first aid point, it is impossible for the candidates to sit back and watch their villains. Hurry up and let everyone go for refuge. Try to keep the distance between villains and villains as far as possible. Gentang Yao was the first to react, facing so many villains, and under the leadership of Hero-S, of number 10 and another person who was very powerful just by looking at the momentum. The frontal confrontation must be unwise, so he immediately came up with a countermeasure. I will hold villains with vibrations about 1 second apart. After that, Juntang didn't care about the shocked eyes of the people around him, so he rushed out and put his hands on the ground, apparently preparing to continue the previous earthquake. Don't want to get close. However, the range of the shock he caused was not beyond his feet, and it was abruptly interrupted. I always think your quirk doesn't match me. I don't know when. Masada has appeared in front of him, and his huge fist slammed into his abdomen, which directly beat him into a twisted prawn. At this level, would you dare to go to the meeting alone? I really look down on me, Hero-S. Chapter 254 Bullying Children. Simultaneously killed Juntang classmates in an instant. The rest of the people in the back stared at it, especially those from the Masterpiece Academy. Juntang is the number 1 of their group. And in the previous battle, his strength has also been recognized by everyone, and now he was killed by this funny black man with a trick. Seeing Masada who threw Juntang aside and then stood up straight, everyone who thought he was dressed strangely now feel that the more they look, the more mysterious they look, and the more powerful they look. As this mysterious man's headgear related to his quirk, as the black robe on my body to hide something. If Masada were to know what these people were thinking at this time, he would definitely laugh out loud, invisible pretense, the most deadly. Crack, click, the sound of ice spreading suddenly came out, and then a huge iceberg rushed towards Masada. At this time, he couldn't use quirk, so he didn't want to resist this attack, so he easily avoided it after a retreat. Hurry up and give people a refuge. Give this to the combatants. I saw Boom use his quirk to directly separate Masada and the others from Hero-S, but he also knew that such a barrier would not last long, so he hurriedly yelled to the somewhat stupid classmate behind him. After all, the subject of this assessment is still, rescue. As long as the victims are sent to a safe place under the attack of villains, they are still qualified. Hearing the booming yelling, some people who were not strong in combat power also hurriedly reacted and started to take action, while the rest of the candidates who thought they were good enough stayed to stop the villains from attacking. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, the ice wall in front of him trembles, and then, dense spider web patterns appear on it, and then, the thick ice wall directly collapses into fragments. What? Seeing this scene, Boom was a little surprised. The ice wall just now was released after he charged up. Even a killer whale shouldn't be able to destroy it so quickly. The broken ice was scattered on the ground amidst the rumbling, turning into icy debris on the ground, and behind it was the posture of Masada throwing a fist. Xiang Ying's top students are at this level. Masada had already adapted to this feeling of speaking under the pressure of the voice, and he was in the middle of the battle at this time, so Heng didn't notice anything wrong at all, only felt that the other party was mocking. Damn it! The flame in his left hand jumped, and when he was about to blaze the masked man in front of him, suddenly a strong wind pressure hit the sky. Be obediently blown away by the wind. The violent tornado was mixed with gravel, which directly enveloped this area. Because all the victims here had been rescued by the classmates just now, Yilan Inasa was doing his best at this time. The violent wind swept across, and the little brothers rushing in front of Masada couldn't resist the power of this hurricane. They were wrapped in the air and rotated non-stop until they hit the wall of the venue. Is villains coming? The exam process is quite hot this time. At this time, Yilan Inasa kept jetting out air currents from under his feet, relying on this to stand in the void. The pressing arm had not yet been lifted up. Boom. I'm here to help you. After solving the misunderstanding, the two discussed again in the lounge just now. At this time, looking at Yilan Inasa's appearance, it seems that he is already a good buddy. Seeing that the brother is in trouble, this hot-blooded man naturally will not stand idly by. Masada would not be blown away so easily. Observation Haki easily sensed the existence of Yilan Inasa, so the moment he launched the attack, his toes flashed and left the area. The killer whale relied entirely on its huge size and resisted the shock abruptly. At this time, it also stopped its body shape and was ready to see Masada's reaction. By now, he also feels that he doesn't need to make a move at all. Otherwise, the already very difficult assessment will become hell difficulty. Now he is ready to be a bystander and take a good look at this batch of heroes, a new force in the world. Okay, kill a batch of villains first. This way, it will be a lot easier next. Slowly descending from the sky, Yilan Inazuo stood beside Boom. The little brothers who had been bombed by him just now seemed to have lost their combat effectiveness and were judged to be out of the game. Don't take it lightly. The strength of the man in black just now is probably very powerful. For flowers, Boom reminded him coldly, because he found that Masada, who was still in front of him just now, had disappeared at this time, and it can be seen from the fact that Gang smashed the ice wall with a fist, if it wasn't for Quirk's sake. I am afraid that the strength and speed of this person are terrifying. This is actually the most difficult person to deal with. The speed is fast, others can't beat you, and the strength is great. You can lose combat power with just one punch. I said, is it really good to just stand and chat? The lazy words came from behind, shocking the two of them and turning their heads abruptly. The eye-catching is the Masada wearing a hood. Even through the thick cloth, Ho and Kirishima could feel that the expression on his face must be mocking them. Whined. The reaction was quick, and Yilan Inasa instantly accumulated a violent wind in his hands and hit the Masada directly on the chest. As this little wind used to blow birthday candles. It's a pity that this little wind pressure was obviously not taken by Masada. She squeezed her iron fist, and then hit Yilan Inasa's palm. Snapped. Just like bursting a balloon, the wind ball in Yilan Inasa's hand was easily shattered, and then Masada's fist slammed into his palm. Boom. Even though Masada had already collected a lot of energy and put on a restraint device, the huge power directly knocked Yilan Inasa into the ruins behind him. Are you okay? Seeing that his partner was beaten into the air, Boom also messed up his hands and feet, hurriedly turned his head and shouted loudly. Do you still have time to look back at this time? But Masada wouldn't give him time, and his free hand quickly leaned towards Boom's shoulder, and when Boom realized it, it was already too late. It would be like iron claws to buckle Boom's shoulders. Just as he twisted, he flew Boom out, stepping into the footsteps of Yilan Inasa, and knocking him back when he had just stood up, aroused large swaths of smoke. At this level, do you want to be a hero? Killed the two easily, clapping their hands too much, and the tone was full of arrogance. Long. Chapter 255 Cohesive Vibe. Too strong. This professional hero is not at the same level as us. That's right, even Yilan Inasa, who eliminated more than 100 people just now, is not an opponent. Seeing Masada's brave performance, the candidates who had just stayed with confidence just now, prepared to stop him here, felt a little shaken in their hearts. So far, they have not seen Masada ever used quirk. But even so, hitting them is as easy as a father hitting his son. How can this be fun? What's the matter? What are you doing standing still? If you don't come up, I will attack. Masada stood there and waited for a while, and was still asking why these people suddenly stopped moving. Gango and the others have a very good aura. Is it because the Rikido they used is still a little bigger? The right foot slammed on the ground, and there was a sudden explosion, and the spider web-like cracks spread out to the surroundings. Whoosh! He quickly came to the front of an examinee, threw a fist like lightning, then closed his hand decisively, stepped on the foot again, came to another examinee, and hit the same punch. Bang! Bang, bang. In just a few seconds, Masada's figure shuttled back and forth between a dozen people. When the examinee recovered and saw his figure clearly, a group of people holding their stomachs and rolling on the ground had fallen. This time he didn't make a heavy move. It wouldn't be good if too many people were eliminated, so he just clicked. As long as these people have not lost their fighting spirit and continue to stand up and fight, their chances of passing are still very high. Sluggish. Everyone present, including Hong and Yellen and Asa, who stood up at this moment, was in an incredible sluggishness at this moment. They didn't even see how Masada shot, they saw a few dark shadows flashing in front of them. Then the companions were knocked down. This kind of speed can only limit him first. However, not all the unnamed people were present. There were also candidates who stood here confidently. Their strength would not be considered weak among high school students across the country, so they immediately figured out a way to deal with it. I come. Zero suddenly rushed out of the crowd, and then waved his arms. The dense bandages were woven into a large net in the air, and then he moved towards Masada. Boom. Chill was spreading under Boom's feet, and then a rim of ice cones formed from under his feet and circled around Masada's side, forming an encircling circle. The rest of the students also showed their talents. Some released super glue to the ground, and some hardened the ground. All the abilities that could be taken out to restrain people were used at the same time. On the other hand, Yellen and Asa gathered a large amount of air current in the sky, and the strong wind pressure made it impossible to escape from the air. For a while, it turned out to be a scene where the examinees were beating Masada alone. Innocent. Seeing the offensive coming towards him in all directions, Masada also raised some interest, concentrated his attention, and then stood there quietly waiting for the attack to come. This guy, do you have any afterthoughts? Did he give up resistance? What are you talking nonsense? Maybe he is using quirk. Seeing Masada's performance, everyone reacted differently, but they were still pregnant with Kiji, hoping that their attack would work. But even in the face of a sneak attack, the current Masada can easily dodge it, not to mention the obvious targets of these attacks and the various tricks that say, I am dangerous, on it. With the help of seeing and hearing color, Masada is like a willow leaf, moving briskly in the sky's attack, let alone being restrained, and even the black robe is not stained with stains. This result made me hopeful just now. All the candidates sighed. Sure enough, that kid. Perhaps everyone in the field would still think that this man in black was able to evade the attack by relying on the quirk. After all, from the beginning of the battle to the present, Masada did not show anything unusual at all, so the scene at this time also made sense. But in the stands, Mr. Aizawa, who has a clear view of the entire venue, is different. Even if you look at the whole country, the sensory quirk is one of the few. Even if he is well informed, he seems to be only the former assistant of All Might in the impression. Yayan can do similar things, but it will definitely not be so easy. But Jungtae is different. He said lightly that he saw Jungtae strolling in a small ball storm. What's wrong? By the way, this man in black is very powerful, but he has never heard of this character, as if he came out of thin air. Ms. Joke asked with some confusion when Ms. Aizawa muttered to himself. He just came out of thin air. Also, Igarashi, whom you asked before, is now in the venue. Although I was a little curious about why Masaichi suddenly became a villain, Aizawa-sensei always felt relieved. The Hero-S committee dared to make such an arrangement, and he would definitely not treat him badly. Could it be that? Mr. Aizawa had already said very clearly, and Ms. Joke quickly responded. Yes, it's what you think. Don't ask me why, I don't know. A long speech blocked Ms. Joke's mouth. Aizawa-sensei stopped speaking, holding his arms with a cold expression on his face. Vo-om. Quote. Suddenly, there was a huge explosion in the venue, accompanied by an angry word. What are you trash doing? The three of Bakugo had just been at the other end of the venue. After hearing the movement, they rushed over non-stop, and finally arrived at this time. Villains as you guy. Glancing at the examinee who fell on the ground with disdain, Bakugo's face was full of tools, and he asked Masada in a tone of, the sky is big, I am the biggest. No matter how many times I look at it, I feel very owed. Even if you are already familiar with Bakugo's character, there are still veins on Masada's forehead at this time. I have to say that Bakugo's provocative kung fu is really getting home. You still wear a headgear, and you don't dare to show your true colors, so let Lao Su pull it off for you. Seeing that Masada didn't answer, Bakugo's anger rose up, and when he pushed his hands back, the explosion sounded 4.8, and his body flew out with the blast generated by the blast. Wait, you are not his opponent. An examinee who fell to the ground spoke out to persuade him that he was the one who was knocked down with a punch by Masada, and he did not think that Bakugo could defeat such an opponent. Does the opponent have to wait until I have played before? Don't you guys want to be Hero-S? That's the ambition. Bakugo, who was advancing quickly, turned his head and gave the candidate a fierce look, staring at him with a cleverness, but Bakugo's words awakened all those who were still hesitating. Yes, obviously we all want to be Hero-S. Isn't Hero-S the ones who can overcome difficulties and forge ahead? Seeing the sudden change in momentum, the people who were fighting intently appeared all over, they grinned too much. You really are there, Bakugo. Chapter 256 Identity Exposure. I have to say that although Bakugo has a bad temper and a poisonous mouth, his desire to become a Hero-S is no worse than anyone else. Moreover, his unparalleled self-confidence made the candidates present unconsciously invigorated, and even the people who had fallen on the ground tried to stand up. Die to me. At this time, Bakugo had already rushed to the front of Masada, and his palms also stretched out from behind to the front. Boom. Quote. A strong blast came out of his hand, but Masada seemed to foresee the route of his attack in advance, and he turned his head slightly and avoided it. Not only that, during a short period of rigidity after the end of Bakugo's attack, Masada directly stretched out his arm, grabbed his arm, twisted his body, and Bakugo, who was too late to react in the future, threw it out and put the 3 or 4 behind him. Personal. There was no time to breathe. As soon as Masada's movements were over, Boom had already shot, and the sharp ice thorns rushed towards him like an endless mountain. Too slow. But in Masada's eyes, the speed of these ice cubes is almost the same as that of the turtle crawling. A few simple back jumps and jumps left the attack range of the Boom, and at the same time, I did not forget to launch a counterattack and gave a few people around him. 1 punch per person, but when 1 person fell, more people surrounded him. Because Masada didn't make a ruthless hand, these candidates rely on willpower, and they are like Xiaoqiang who can't be beaten to death. Facing the crowd of candidates, Masada's emotions did not fluctuate at all, and the black robe on her body was just like the beginning, without a trace of damage. She lifted the headgear on her head that was slightly crooked due to the movement, as if the villain in front of her is not worth mentioning at all. Always letting you chase and fight is not a problem. After all, I am the villain now. If the villain must take the initiative to attack, right? Masada's words to herself can't help but leave the candidates speechless for a while. Obviously you are chasing us to fight. Why do you want to confuse right and wrong? Whoosh, he disappeared in place with lightning speed, and when he reappeared, Masada had already appeared in front of an examinee. Go down. In the shocked eyes of this examinee, Masada's eyes behind the black hood showed a smile, grabbed his head, and then pressed him to the ground with a hard arm. However, the opponent's offensive was wave after wave. Before Junta's hand left the examinee's head, Kirishima's fist also smashed over. No progress at all. I was a little disappointed when I watched Kirishima rushing up. I didn't need to use my hands to pick it up. Masada could feel that Kirishima's progress was not that big. Take Quirk for example, he can harden his skin into a layer during the sports festival. The armor is gone, but it still stays at this point now. Without blinking his eyelids, a flash came to Kirishima's side, clasped his wrist, and tripped under his feet. Kirishima lost his balance in a burst of exclamation and fell to the ground. Then came Bakugo, who rushed up again. Faced with such a straight attack, Masada is now in a hurry. Observation Hockey accurately predicted his attack. At the moment Bakugo exploded, he slammed his elbow too hard, his arm numb, and Bakugo's attack hit him. Boom. The monstrous flame suddenly swept towards Masada, which was exactly the attack made by Hong again. In the previous attack, he had found that ice cubes had no effect on Masada, so he attacked with flames at this time. Not only that, at the same time that the attack was launched, Yellen Inasa also launched an attack amidst passionate laughter. Under his control, the violent wind gradually gathered into a tornado, and the rubble was cut by this air current. Become a powder. 1 fire and 1 wind, the 2 attacks blended together on the way. The fire took advantage of the wind, and the flames that were originally violent burned more vigorously. The volume and temperature were not the same scale as before. Finally something interesting. Seeing the sudden appearance of the flame storm, Jung is too bright. This scale is no longer an attack from a high school student, even the professional hero S is nothing more than that. Not only is Masada, but even Muliang, who has been watching the situation in the venue from the monitoring, is excited when he sees the combination of the two. This time, the main purpose of the assessment is to strengthen the sense of unity and use the Hero S group to fill the gap after All Might retires. Now, among so many candidates, someone finally did this for the first time. After all, cooperation is still the main theme of society unless it is opened like Masada. Everyone understands the simple principle of 1 plus 12, but it is not so easy to do this. I don't know if with my current physical body, can it be the same as All Might, just use my fist to hit the air pressure to extinguish this flame. Jung Tai thought with some passion in his heart. This time he was not ready to hide from the attack, but decided to face it fiercely. He clenched his fists, his muscles bulged high, and because of some excitement, a faint white steam came out of it unconsciously. Although it is not smash, it is still a very powerful iron fist. Boom. A strong air current was generated from the place where Masada's fist hit, and it collided with the roaring flames, like an explosion, erupting between the two. It's so refreshing. Looking at the scene in front of him, he was too long to breathe a 397 sigh. The originally dense flames turned out to be a channel under his punch. The monstrous flame is like being separated by something out of thin air. Before and after encountering Masada, it splits into 2, passing through both sides of him. At this time, Masada, standing in the circle of flames, there is no flame that can approach him, just like the Emperor in the flame. His awful. However, Masada let out a surprise, and the seriousness of the matter made the voice he had been suppressing return to normal. This voice. The boom not far in front of him was naturally heard. This familiar sound made him stunned for a while, and then Dingqing looked into the flames. It's really careless. This headgear is too intolerable to burn, right? This temperature is not good. I really have to complain to the manufacturer. It must be cutting corners. Masada's cursing voice came out from the flames. If anyone who didn't know the situation thought he had bought fake and shoddy products. This thing is just an ordinary headgear. The material and craftsmanship are already very good, and you have to make it resistant to high temperatures, which is too harsh. As the flame extinguished, the man in black who had been surrounded by the mystery also revealed his identity. Justice. Chapter 257 Tongtian Feet. Everyone who knew him at the scene made an unbelievable voice. They couldn't believe that the person who had just fought with them was their classmate. Obviously, I was still chatting with myself half an hour ago, why didn't I see him for a few minutes, and I turned into an examiner. Ah, yes, as you can see, I became an examiner somehow. Anyway, his identity has been exposed, and Masato was fortunate to admit it honestly. In his opinion, this is not a big deal. Anyway, there is a problem with the hero's committee helping himself to wipe his butt. It turned out to be you Magma B******************. D. Why not use your quirk? Bakugo suddenly became anxious. He felt that he was being teased like a fool. This means that just now Masaru was useless and quirk beat him up. Very good, really great. But Bakugo is not a person who gave up lightly. On the contrary, Masato's strength aroused the fighting spirit in his heart. This is really the worst case scenario. The tyrannical killer whale saw the sight in front of him, covering his face with his palm and was a little speechless. After knowing the identity of Masato, I am afraid that these students will not be able to make a bold move like before, and this assessment will not reach the initial stage. The request. It turned out to be Igarashi classmate. Green Valley had just arrived here at this time. He had been escorting the refugees from the beginning. Don't think that the villain was alone. Although the killer whale did not take action, there are still many younger brothers obstructing the actions of the hero's. Although their strength is not strong, they are better than their weapons, their cooperation, and their numbers. So for a while, the candidates and them were also in a stalemate. It was not until just now that Lugu had the opportunity to get out and come to this main battlefield. I knew it. Yaoyorozu 100 also saw the Masato who was particularly conspicuous in the crowd in the distance, and his face was covered with black lines, that kind of exaggerated appearance. She could understand it if it was put on Tokiyami, but how did this guy suffer? No, you must correct him after you go back. Thinking of it, it seems that Masato always wears sportswear, otherwise it is big pants and a vest, and the clothes are so low. If God had not given him a handsome face and a perfect body, he would be sure it is the image of a passerby. Straight men's clothing must not be kept. Yaoyorozu Bai has already made up his mind at this time, to put the project of improving the aesthetics and clothing of Igarashi students on the agenda. This is definitely a big deal. Well, the intermission should be over too, right? Seeing that everyone was discussing about it, Masato was too unwilling to delay the time openly. The second round has begun, boys. This arrogant remark directly aroused public outrage. Boy, does it mean that even if he grows up, he is still a weak chicken? If you don't use quirk, no matter how you write it. Bakugo and Midori Valley moved, forming a pincer from left to right. Explosions and electric lights were particularly dazzling in the venue. There should be a limit too. Boom. Gen Tang Yao also launched an attack at this time. He was very resistant to beatings because of the quirk. At this time, his combat power had been restored, his palm was close to the ground, and this area instantly cracked due to the earthquake. Monstrous flames, fierce winds, corrosive acid, hardened fists. Various attacks were more violent and concentrated than before, all aimed at Masato who was in the center of the storm like a storm. The killer whale was dumbfounded. What about the friendship between the classmates? Why did these people start heavier after Masato revealed his true body? Is it because my eyes are blurred, or is there a generation gap in my age? Such an attack. Even if elementalization cannot be used in accordance with the regulations, Masato didn't panic at all in such a situation, but instead laughed wildly. It makes no sense. He kicked his feet and brushed past several people who rushed to his side, and his sturdy figure rose to the sky. What? I didn't expect Masato to come this hand. Everyone raised their heads in surprise. At this time, Masato's figure was in midair, and it was extremely dazzling because of the direct sunlight. Tongtianjiao, staying in the air for a second, then Masato placed the center of his body on his lap, and his body fell at a faster speed. Seeing this rapidly descending figure, after having learned from the previous lesson, the candidates will certainly not be stupid enough to go head-to-head with this human-shaped Tyrannosaurus, and dodge toward the side one after another. Unfortunately, their speed was still a bit slower, and Masato's heel had already hit the ground full of sores. Boom. Far more astonishing than the previous explosions, the deafening sound reverberated continuously in the venue, and even made people tinnitus for a short time. The strong shock wave was generated from the place where Masato's foot touched the ground, and the terrifying power spread out in an instant, and the ground that had been riddled with holes because of the shaking of Juntang began to collapse again. The ground began to shatter little by little, and the cobweb-like cracks expanded again, and together with it, there were bottomless cracks, which divided the entire venue into several pieces. And these candidates were naturally unlucky. The earth, which was originally the most trustworthy, was trembling at this moment, and standing on it couldn't stabilize his figure. Suddenly, smoke was everywhere, and rocks splashed. At this time, Masato is obviously already playing a little bit. He has forgotten what she had taken care of him before. NS. Speaking of it, this restraint protective gear does not have a great impact on Masato. Although this thing is really heavy when worn on the body, it is a pediatrics in front of Masato who has been trained for many years. This B****************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** ground, Kirishima coughed vigorously. Honuo Zhao, he just took a bite of ashes. Hero S, are there any tricks? From the center of the destruction point came the shout of the wife, interrupting his thoughts. Zhu is simply too strong. It's not on the same level at all. Are he and us really the same age? Even the members of Class A who are familiar with Masada, seeing Masada who seemed to be destroying Wang Yi at this time, are full of bitterness in their hearts. This degree of gap cannot be caught up with hard work. Not to mention the candidates from other schools. Is this person's brain full of muscles to cause such damage with the body? If there are no tricks, I will be here. Lowering his voice, Masada said in a light tone that he really wanted to record what he was like now. It must be super handsome. The supervillain who has shocked all the heroes with a cold face is just too big. Chapter 258 The End of the Assessment. Just when Masada pretended to be a force, ready to reap the worship and terror of everyone. Squeak. A sharp whistle suddenly spread throughout the examination room, and then Muliang's voice rang from the radio. Please note in this session, all the HUCCs deployed in the examination room have been rescued from the dangerous area. Even though I know that this is pretty selfish, I still want to announce. This temporary license examination is officially over. Is this the end? The momentum that Masada had just picked up collapsed in an instant, and his pretense was only halfway through, so how can it be over? This does not consider his feelings. However, the examinee who was enveloped by the power of Masada just now took a long breath. To them, the words of good looks are no different from the immortal sound. A few of them were less powerful, and even sat down on the ground, panting for breath. The continuous battle just now made them exhausted. Then, according to Muliang's instructions, everyone helped the injured candidates to a safe place, and then went to the locker room to change their combat uniforms, and after a while, after verification, everyone's results would be announced on the spot. It's really anticlimactic. On the way to the locker room with her classmates, Masada was a little listless. What are you talking about? When you first appeared on the stage, it shocked us a lot. Kirishima was a little dissatisfied with his decadent appearance, and knocked his shoulder 397 hard. How did you get into the examiner? Oh, this. Didn't you call me when I was in the lounge just now? Just then, after being hammered by Kirishima with a cleverness, Masada also put the loss behind his head and opened his mouth to answer him. Then Masada, what about your assessment this time? Could it be the same as in the final exam? It's a separate assessment. Kaminari also leaned in at this time. After he found that he could not cause any effective attacks, he went to assist the team on the other side to escort the wounded, so there was no wound on his body except for the dust. No need, I passed it directly, you can understand it as a pass. Nani, the hammer of reality hit everyone's chest directly. Originally, I only heard that Shongying High School had recommended students, but now Jing can even provide temporary licenses. After changing their clothes quickly, except for the examinee who passed out due to the serious injury, everyone came to the big screen at the entrance of the venue and waited for the result. However, everyone's faces are not so good at this time. Although everyone in Class A knew that there was a big gap between them and Masada, they didn't expect Masada to beat them violently without quirk. And in the locker room, they also found the restraint protective gear worn by Masada, which once again refreshed their bottom line of Masada's strength. In addition, other schools were even more shocked. In particular, Zhen Tang, who was still thinking about competing with Masada before, was completely speechless at this time, and the enthusiasm before the assessment began disappeared, and he walked silently in the crowd with his head down. The rest of the elite students, including Shiji High School, mostly responded with this. This situation can be good or bad. If they step out of the shadow of Masada and defeat their own demon, then their future journey will definitely be much easier, but if they have been entangled by today's things, then I am afraid this level of life is also at this level. Of course, Masada feels that if you can't bear even this setback, it's better not to be a hero earlier. The place on the stage is limited. If you can't do it, then leave it to those who need it more. It sounds cruel, but this is reality. Today's hero is like a boat against the current. If you don't advance, you will retreat. I really don't know how it turned out. After waiting for a long time, the big screen was still dark, making everyone anxious. Have a more optimistic view. Anyway, we have done everything we can do. As for what the examiner thinks, we don't care about our business. Of course, there are also negative ones. It's over. I was killed from the beginning of the villain's entry. After that, I didn't even have the consciousness. This time the temporary license didn't have any chance with me. After the classmates whispered to each other, Mu Liang finally stepped onto the stand in the eyes of everyone. It's really hard for everyone today. The results will be announced next. But about the scoring method, I have to say a few words first. In this exam, we use the Hero's Public Security Committee and the HUC staff's double deduction algorithm. In other words, the focus of this examination is CDEI, who makes fewer mistakes and takes more correct actions in an emergency. After listening to Mu Liang's speech, everyone nodded one after another. This calculation method is very scientific and can greatly avoid misjudgment. With a wave of his arm, the big screen behind Mu Liang suddenly lit up, and names appeared on it. The list of qualified candidates has been arranged in the order of the first letters of their names, so let's go through it yourself. I'm coming. Where is my name? Masada also glanced at the list, and soon found a lot of familiar names. Yaoyorozu Baihei Cha-Cha is naturally included, but he did not see his name. It is probably already listed separately. Why is there no me? After scanning up and down for a long time, Bakugo didn't see his name on this screen, and he couldn't help but roared with constipation. It must be because you are too violent. Kutao used quirk to temporarily make many stretchers when he was helping the victims, so he passed easily. At this time, with a small expression of ambition, he moved to the side of Bakugo to lose. Bakugo actually failed the ranking. This is the strong one in our class. Grape's voice is not too small. It naturally attracted the attention of most people in Class A. For a while, Bakugo was surrounded by a large number of people. Hey, it is precisely because of his top-notch strength that he will do his own way, but it is also because of this dominance for me that finally led to the fall. Still closing his eyes and pretending to be a man of grapes, Kaminari's mouth was covered by Kaminari before he finished speaking. He didn't see who he was provoking. Doesn't he know Bakugo's temper? Now Bakugo's expression is so gloomy that he wants to kill someone. Next, we will send you the scoring table, which records the detailed scoring process. Please take a closer look. Following Mu Liang's words, a group of people in black held a stack of transcripts and sent them to the hands of each classmate. Since the specific actions and how many points were deducted are clearly written on the table, so the candidates can prescribe the right medicine for their shortcomings and improve themselves. For the candidates who failed, the Hero S committee also gave them a second chance. After receiving a special lecture for 3 months, as long as you can get results in the personal exam, you will still get a temporary license. This news finally made Bakugo's face look better. He was the only one who failed in the class. If he really had to wait until a few months later to take the exam again, he might explode on the spot. It seems that the second round of assessment is just a pretense. It is clear that as long as the person who has passed the first level is the key training object, it has to be so mysterious. Masada is a little speechless about this. Shouldn't it be a government agency? There are many considerations. Although many difficulties have been set up, everyone has come to the end. When I walked out of the venue, it was almost evening, and the temporary license examination was officially over. And the Class A classmates, they are one step closer to becoming Hero S. Chapter 259 Tartalo's Prison. Just as Class A was struggling for the temporary license, the sequelae of the Battle of Kamiya began to ferment slowly. On TV and the internet, seminars of various experts have been broadcast day after day, but this will only make the people more uneasy. It is because All Might's sense of existence is too strong that they can't see the activity of other Hero S. Even though they defeated AFO too much that day, after All Might retired, the society is still in panic. For ordinary people, the biggest change should be here, in it. The person who became No. 1 Hero S afterwards. Endeavor. The many uneasiness in the world are now directed at him, but this is also natural. After all, he was not the kind of Hero S that would appeal to everyone. I don't think Endeavor can't afford the position of number 1, but I still compare him to All Might unconsciously. To put it simply, he is just a rough man. If I say that he is a mortal pretending to be a Superman, he is placed in a position that he does not want to be worthy of under the irresistible force. This is a great misfortune for him. Beep. Lying on the sofa in the dormitory hall, Masada picked up the remote control on the table and turned off the chattering interviews on the TV. I use this bullshit all day long, and I don't want to think about who is protecting them. Although Masada could barely understand the reaction of these people, he totally disagreed with it. The words just now were spoken by a group of foolish people who were blinded because they had been in peace for too long. These media are also following the fanfare, and they are not afraid of making a big deal. Boom. Don't take it to heart, your father is still very strong. At this time, Class A had all returned to the dormitory, and Hong was naturally one of them. Masada Police realized that his face was a little unpleasant, and said with comfort, "I'm fine." Boom's heart is a bit complicated now. On the one hand, his father finally sat on the throne of number 1 Hero S that he dreamed of, and he should be happy for him. On the other hand, because the previous grievances have not completely disappeared, coupled with the opinions of the people on the TV just now, he was a little irritable. Diddy. Suddenly, Masada felt a vibration in his pants pocket, and took out his mobile phone. It turned out to be an All Might call. It's almost 8 o'clock, why are you looking for me to do? With doubts in his heart, he pressed the switch on GN too much. What? Go out with you now. Okay, I'll come right away. After hung up the phone, he just sorted out some messy clothes and stood up, ready to go out. What's matter? Seeing Masada's movements, Yaoyorozu asked a little curiously. All Might suddenly asked me something. He didn't say anything about it. Don't worry. So, where are we going now? After walking out of the dormitory, Masada got into All Might's car, and then he drove all the way to the suburbs. Along the way, All Might didn't speak either. His expression was quite serious, so Masada didn't take the initiative to ask. But now the surrounding environment is getting more and more desolate, and there are no street lights around, so Masada can't help but ask questions. Tartaro's prison, that's right in front. After hearing All Might's words, I was looking forward with my eyes wide open. They are now on a sea bridge, and on the opposite side of the bridge is an isolated island surrounded by cliffs. Spit, it's really spectacular. Masada is no stranger to the name Tartalus. With the birth of quirk crimes also accompany it, and Tartalus is dedicated to imprisoning these quirk criminals, the largest prison in Japan. As here to meet AFO. If Masada doesn't know the purpose of All Might's coming here at this time, then he can jump into the sea from the bridge. After inspection by the soldiers at the prison gate, the two got out of the car and walked into this prison called the Iron Wall. Yes, speaking of it, it's the first time I've been here. Looking at the surrounding security measures as if they don't need money, All Might sighed that many of the criminals in this prison were sent in by himself. But even so, the evil never disappeared. The dream of cleaning out all darkness took his life's energy but was not completed. For flowers, under the leadership or monitoring of the prison guards, after passing through layers of inspections, the two finally reached the lowest level of the prison, where AF0 was detained. What are you coming to do with me? All Might. Oh, and this young man who completely defeated me, Masato Igarashi. Behind a glass wall, the tightly bound AFO is sitting in a restrained chair. His condition is obviously not very good. His body was filled with tubes of inexplicable nature, filled with colorful liquids, and his head was also wearing life-sustaining equipment, and he looked very weak. After a battle with Masato, his physical condition suddenly returned to 5 years ago, no, maybe even more dilapidated than it was then. Oh. Seeing the AFO in front of him, the miserable appearance of the biggest opponent in his life, All Might was silent for a moment. It's really embarrassing. Why did you know this before? Masato won't have any extra thoughts, because AFO is just a pure opponent to him, a potential threat to his side, so the speech will naturally not be too pleasant. I really didn't expect that the young man who ran away under my hands, in a blink of an eye, I was no longer an opponent. For your heir, All Might, you really care about it. AFO still believes that Masato is the next generation of OFA. He doesn't care about his own failure, but as a teacher, he also lost to All Might. This is what hit him most. Squirting mouth is quite powerful. Do you really think you are still that powerful demon king? The appearance of the old AFO made Masato a little uncomfortable when he saw it, and he directly sneered, when you are old, you can retire honestly. You can have a peace of mind. If you have to jump out and cause trouble, isn't it your own death? The AFO, who had been a superior for a long time, heard such words for the first time. It was suddenly stuck, and the atmosphere suddenly quieted down. Where is the dead wood? In the end, All Might broke the silence. His sharp eyes seemed to see through AFO's heart and asked the question he most wanted to know. Long. Chapter 260 Socialist Core Values. Do not know. After hearing All Might's words, AFO said immediately, as if he had known that he would ask this question a long time ago. He has been out of my care. He who has his own thoughts doesn't even need my legacy. Heritage. Very keenly grasping the words in AFO's words, All Might's eyes condensed. It seems that AFO is indeed a scourge. Even if it is not in prison, it still does not make people feel at ease. He should be talking about those genetic technologies, right? It's what the doctor left behind at the time. Masato added from the side that he still remembered the various monsters that the League of Villains made during the stay together. That's right. Death Grimwood is not interested in these, so I leave them to those who need them more. He who is hidden in the dark will give you a head one day. All Might did not speak. Looking at the terrifying face of AFO without facial features, it took a long time before he spoke again. What on earth do you want to do? He did not hesitate to subvert human common sense. In the end, 400 got this body, but the hard-won immortality in the future will all be spent on squeezing and domination of others. Why do you want to do this? This topic is really nothing new. Even if I answer it, you won't agree. There will always be such people in the world who cannot understand each other. AFO seems to have been lonely for too long. At this time, he was very interested in speaking and continued to talk endlessly. Actually, I and you are the same. Just as you aspire to be a righteous hero, what I am looking forward to is to become a demon king of all evils. What a simple answer. I have an ideal in my heart, and at the same time I have the power to realize it. If I can live in the ideal forever, I am willing to make any effort for it. AFO's voice is a bit hoarse at this time, and there seems to be a hint of imperceptible excitement in it. This is not common in his body. Then why do you want to cultivate heirs? You actually ask this. Ha ha ha, it's so interesting. Hearing All Might's words, AFO suddenly became excited, and his body swayed slightly, causing the soldiers monitoring him to feel nervous. Isn't it because you took everything from me 5 years ago? Then 5 years later, when I was about to do a big fight, your heir stopped me again. Look at me now. Even speeding regeneration can't heal my injury. Only by relying on these countless tubes can I survive. My originally infinite ideal has become a residue. After saying this, AFO stopped speaking, and All Might fell into silence, and the atmosphere fell silent again. With such power, why do you have to be a demon king? Isn't it bad to be a hero? Seeing these two rivals staring with big eyes and small eyes, Jung was too boring and interjected casually, but when he finished speaking, he found that he had asked a very stupid question. When the quirk was first born, there were only a small part of it at the time, and only newborns had quirks. The majority of the world's population were still quirkless ordinary people. Discrimination and persecution are all normal situations, and even some countries secretly conduct human experiments on children with quirks. These are not groundless, but are accurately recorded and recorded in the textbook. Everyone who has studied in Hero S will learn this history. As these first children with quirk grew up, chaos broke out. Why do we want to be looked down upon? Just because we have superpowers and they don't. Just because they are most people, these, incompetent, people can stand on our heads. This is the case in every country. The group of people with quirk has launched riots all over the world, wanting to fight against social order. However, with their scattered sand, facing the state apparatus, it is still not enough. After the situation expanded and the army was dispatched, these people with quirks were suppressed like chickens. However, one person stood up at this time. That is AFO. Unifying those who were fighting separately, AFO has achieved his title of Dark Emperor in the chaotic era, and his extremely evil quirk has also caused more people to fall into it. How could he become a hero like this? After that, things are very simple. With the popularity of quirk, the original minority has become the majority, and the contradiction is solved. Moreover, in the chaotic era, there are also powerful pioneers who are for justice. Fight against evil. Then, All Might was born, defeating AFO in one fell swoop, and then there is a scene of peace today. Smacking his lips, Masato was a little embarrassed. Well, I didn't ask the question just now. If I were you, I might become a selfish person who uses quirk for profit. These words are not ignorant of conscience, saying that they are reasonable, and people do not die for themselves. He does not have the selfless spirit of All Might. If he is constantly oppressed, he will definitely stand up and resist. Igarashi boy. After hearing Masato's somewhat dangerous speech, All Might panicked. Several possibilities flashed past his heart, staring at him nervously. AFO also reacted in the same way. He originally thought Masato and All Might were the same quirks, but now he seems to see the difference between the two. Although it is definitely unrealistic to instigate Masato at this time, if a seed can be planted in his heart, it will definitely be disgusting All Might. Hehehe, it seems that you understand me. There are too many constraints in this society. Instead of struggling in it, why not destroy these rules and make them yourself? The provocative words came out of AFO's mouth. If you were an ordinary person, you might be really shaken at this time. But is our Masato an ordinary person? Of course not. He is a young man in the new era who has received more than 10 years of education in socialist core values. What are you kidding? I really want to make a mess of society like you told me. Where can I go to the supermarket? The restaurant has closed down. Where can I go for a big meal? There will be nowhere to travel by then. Almost all the villains are single, right? I don't want to become a big masked mage. More importantly, my handsome face doesn't look like a villain, right? How can a villain be so sunny and cheerful? To sum up, if I really did what you told me, I would be the biggest shabby in the 21st century. There is no one. That's right, I will send you a 24-character proverb at the end. Prosperity, democracy, civilization, harmony, freedom, equality, justice, rule of law, patriotism, dedication, integrity, and friendliness. Remember well, as long as you mute these 24 words to your heart, you will succeed and enter ranked as a glorious young pioneer. The AFO who listened to the words like a bead of words was stunned for a second. 24 words. Young pioneers. What are these 4.8 things? How come I have never heard of it after living for so long? Is this the Masato? The secret to be able to beat yourself? Let's go quickly. It seems that today's purpose is to ask about the whereabouts of the dead tree, right? Really? Why do you have to take me to class tomorrow? All Might, can you give me a fake note? If you are scolded for being late, you must be found. After the previous freshness, Masato is already a little bored with this place. There are full-armed soldiers everywhere. The feeling of just giving people is very depressed, and also facing the stinky face of AFO, how can there be a big fragrant bed? Comfortable. All Might was also shocked by Masato's series of words. I have never seen him say that before. He wouldn't tell Jung Tai. The purpose of calling him this time was actually to smash the aura of AFO. After all, this time AFO was not defeated by him personally, but he was even defeated. The upright All Might is really letting go. Nothing cruel.